Chapter 2021. Fanine frowned and asked, "You also obtained the sage technique?" Yi Qinghan's eyes were dull as he shook his head and sighed. He said helplessly, "That's good. Let's talk about this in the future." As they discussed, Chess Venerate walked out with Yunlong Manor's mansion lord and Wu Zhenjuan. Yi Qinghan and the rest immediately came forward and knelt on one knee. Chess Venerate reached out to support them and smiled, "There's no need for such formalities if it's not a formal occasion. I'm a man of my word. Yunlong Manor's lord is also willing to guarantee that you will be sent to the heaven sealing prison. Come with me. Chess Venerate, I want to go too. I can transfer back to the sky-reaching church from the Holy Empire," Fanine said immediately. "All right, you won't be missing. The rest can wait here," Chess Venerate said lightly. At this moment, Wu Zhenjuan looked at Emperor Yi and Wu Sheng, with a smile, "My two darlings, come home with me. I have something to tell you." Emperor Yi originally wanted to follow Yi Qinghan to the heaven sealing prison, but seeing Wu Zhenjuan's firm attitude, he did not dare to cause trouble and could only nod in agreement. Wu Zhenjuan looked at Yi Qinghan lightly and did not say anything. He waved his hand and took Emperor Yi and Wu Sheng away, disappearing into the sky in the blink of an eye. On the training field, everyone was still anxiously taking the test and did not notice the appearance of the sage. Chess Venerate drew a space that included Fanine, Yi Qinghan, and Yunlong Manor's mansion lord. He actually carried the space with stellar transposition and fulgurating shadows. The galaxy flowed backward and trillions of stars flew backward. In such a huge world, even an eternal being would need half a day to travel across half of the Holy Lands. They arrived at the Xixiang Holy Lands on the second day. Xia Jiulong had just arrived and was taken away by Chess Venerate. 5 days later, they entered the territory of the Holy Empire. The Holy Empire was vast and boundless with 9 great celestial dwellings. The territory was like a sacred ground. Even if Xia Jiulong didn't sleep or rest, it would take him a few months to reach the Holy Empire from the capital city. However, Chess Supreme Saint only took 3 days to reach the capital city. The 6 of them descended upon the capital. Their silhouettes flickered. Mortals had no fate to meet saints. On this morning, the 6 of them appeared outside the heaven sealing prison. Xia Jiulong's face was cold. He waved his hand and opened the heaven sealing prison. He said indifferently, "Sect Master Yi, I'll give you 2 hours. If you can't find him, then I can only say sorry." Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and smiled at the chess supremacy. "Senior, can you lend me a high-grade storage ring?" The Cloud Dragon Manor's Manor Lord and Xia Jiulong's faces sank. They did not know what Yi Qinghan wanted to take out, but they did not want to go against the chess saint's dignity. So, they could only let Yi Qinghan do as he pleased. The chess saint waved his hand and threw the storage ring from the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage to Yi Qinghan. He said plainly, "This is a gift from the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Since you have cultivated the 10-word mantra, you can be considered half a disciple of the Grand Sage. You can return it to him." Yi Qinghan received the storage ring and did not hesitate to drip his blood on it. Once he fused with the storage ring, he realized how big its space was. It was not inferior to a small holy ground. It was definitely a top-notch space. Not to mention living creatures, even saintly medicine could survive in it. I can definitely take away the ultimate divine metal. Yi Qinghan smiled slyly and was about to step into the heaven sealing prison. Fanine pulled Yi Qinghan back and said seriously, "I'll go in with you." "No. Junior Fanine, this is an important place in the Holy Empire. Without permission, you can't enter." Xia Jiulong rejected her without hesitation. The Cloud Dragon Manor Lord shook his head and said, "Let her go. As long as she doesn't wander off, I'll allow her to enter." Xia Jiulong did not want to go against the Cloud Dragon Manor Lord's wishes. He could only signal Xian Xiu to go in with him. The 3 of them stepped into the prison. The prison was desolate, and many people were digging. It seemed like they really had to dig 3 feet out. However, the prison was extremely vast. This was only a small region. It was probably the world of some sage. However, the sage had been destroyed, and the great Tao of the world had collapsed. That was why it was so desolate. The moment Yi Qinghan entered the great world, his eyes lit up. He grabbed the gold-devouring toad and quickly rushed into the depths. According to his memory, he traveled 1,000 miles and quickly approached the place where he had obtained the ultimate divine metal. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan appeared at the collapsed mountain. It was almost razed to the ground. If they did not know that there was a gold-devouring toad here, who would dig this mountain? Yi Qinghan signaled Fan Yin to go deeper and lure Xian Xiu away. Fan Yin saw the look in Yi Qinghan's eyes and as expected, he rushed towards the depths. Yi Qinghan remembered that there was a paragon trapped there in the depths of the depths. That paragon was bound to be extremely important and must not be known to others. As expected, when Xian Xiu saw Fan Yin rush over, he quickly chased after her and shouted, "Lord Fan Yin, you can't go in." Yi Qinghan watched as Xian Xiu chased after Fan Yin. He immediately waved his hand and shattered the mountain rocks, taking the rocks away. A large pit appeared in front of them. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan kept digging and even used his golden body. After expending a large amount of divine power, a pit that was 100 meters deep appeared. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan jumped into the deep pit. The gold-devouring toad's teeth actually gnawed the surrounding ores into dregs. He quickly found the ultimate divine metal. It was such a large piece that no one else had discovered it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pressed the storage ring on the ultimate divine metal. The ultimate divine metal was immediately taken away. Bang! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and shot into the sky like an arrow. He stood in the sky, his eyes burning like torches. He looked at Fan Yin and Xian Xiu in a roundabout manner and said in a low voice, "Senior sister, let's go back." When Fan Yin saw that Yi Qinghan had succeeded, she did not act rashly. Instead, she turned and rushed in front of Yi Qinghan. "Let's go. We'll talk outside." Yi Qinghan pulled Fan Yin and rushed out of the area in a few flashes. Xian Xiu returned to the deep pit and looked at it with a frown. He did not have time to investigate in detail and chased after them. In less than 4 hours, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were already out of the sky ceiling prison. "Thank you, Crown Prince, for your generosity. Thank you, Palace Master. I've already obtained what I wanted. I'll take my leave now," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. Chess Venerate Saint did not know what Yi Qinghan had obtained, but he did not ask. He bowed and said, "Thank you, Yunlong Sage. Thank you, 9 Dragons Crown Prince. Now that this matter is done, it's time for me to leave. You can go ahead and do what you need to do. There's no need to send me off." "Thank you, Chess Venerate. Otherwise, someone would maliciously spread rumors to slander the reputation of the Holy Empire," Xia Jiolong said in a muffled voice as he bowed. Chess Venerate Saint smiled and left the entrance of the sky ceiling prison with Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin. In the blink of an eye, they were out of the capital and rushed toward the territory of the sky-reaching church. Xia Jiolong's eyes were burning with anger. He stared at Xian Xiu and asked in a low voice, "What did he take away?" Xian Xiu replied respectfully, "Your Highness, I was held back by Fan Yin and could not see what he had obtained. However, I know the location of the item he obtained. We'll know once we go over and investigate." Yunlong Sage had a dignified expression. He also wanted to know what Yi Qinghan had obtained. He stepped into the sky ceiling prison and found the deep pit that Yi Qinghan had dug in half an hour. He jumped into the deep pit and scanned the surroundings. He sensed the aura of immortal materials in the surroundings and finally found the pit where the ultimate god gold divine liquid was. He took away the ultimate god gold. Judging from its shape and size, it can be forged into 2 or 3 eternal sacred artifacts. There's also a lot of ultimate god gold divine liquid. Get it back for me. Yunlong sage roared with a livid expression. Chapter 2022. When Xia Jiulong heard Cloud Dragon Sage's words, his entire body turned green. How much ultimate divine metal was there to forge 3 sacred artifacts? Ultimate divine gold elixir. I remember now. He was using the ultimate divine gold elixir to refine his body. I was wondering where he got the ultimate divine gold elixir from. So he got it from the heaven sealing prison. Xia Jiulong slapped his thigh as he realized that Yi Qinghan's opportunity was given to him by him. He was so angry that his body trembled. What are you waiting for? Chase him back. Cloud Dragon Sage reprimanded angrily. Whoosh, Cloud Dragon Sage was the first to rush out. When he realized that Chess Sage had already disappeared with Yi Qinghan and company, he could only use his tracking technique. Finally, he found Chess Sage's whereabouts and chased after him. However, his speed was inferior to Chess Sage's. Not only did he fail to close the distance, but he also widened the gap. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong used his maximum speed as he moved as fast as lightning. It was as though he was teleporting as he stepped on the stars. 6 Xia Jiulongs appeared in the world, but 5 of them were fake. They were so fast that they only formed afterimages. However, they were so lifelike that one would mistake them for the real person. 9 transformations of the stars. 9 consecutive transformations could allow one's speed to reach the limit. 9 people could appear, and each person could be separated by half a small region. However, Xia Jiulong's speed had clearly not reached the large success stage. It was estimated that he had only reached 6 transformations. The two chased anxiously, but after half a day, they still could not catch up to Chess Sage. Chess Sage sensed that the sage was chasing after him and had already increased his speed. He stepped out of the galaxy and appeared in the distant galaxy. What did you bring out from the sealed heavens prison? Why did Cloud Dragon Sage chase after you personally? Chess Sage looked at Yi Qinghan and asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan grinned and said, cough, cough. Sage, I found a piece of ultimate divine metal in the sealed heavens prison. It's about the size of 2 ultimate divine metals. There's also some ultimate divine metal liquid. Yi Qinghan stretched out his arm and measured it. His smile was exceptionally pure. Chess Sage and Fan Yin looked at each other. When they saw Yi Qinghan stretch out his hand to measure, they almost jumped up. Such a large piece of ultimate divine metal was probably enough to forge 3 eternal sacred weapons. It was an immortal material. It was no wonder that the Manor Lord of Yun Dragon Prefecture personally chased after him. You aren't afraid of death. You actually cheated the Holy Empire of such a large piece of immortal material. Aren't you afraid that the Holy Empire's Holy Lord will personally come and kill you? Fan Yin rebuked. That can't be. So stingy. Yi Qinghan didn't know the value of such a treasure and was speechless as he retorted. The chess master's hands trembled as he said in a trembling voice, "This is the celestial material that the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage gave me. It's slightly bigger than a fist. I'm already very grateful. You took such a huge piece of celestial material from the sealing heavens prison. Even if the Holy Master doesn't appear, the 9 prefecture masters will definitely hunt you down." Yi Qinghan looked at the immortal material in the chess supremacy's hand. It did not even look as good as his ultimate divine gold. He said disdainfully, "What's the point of having so little? The piece of ultimate divine metal in my hand is probably 300 times bigger than yours. Fan Yin and Chess Sage, take it out and let me have a look." Chess Venerate Saint's voice changed as he spoke in a low voice. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out the ultimate divine metal. Just as it was in the air, it was imprisoned by Chess Sage. Fan Yin and Chess Sage almost exploded. Such a large piece of ultimate divine metal could be forged into more than 3 eternal sacred weapons. 5 would be enough. Some of the scraps could even be used to forge some chess pieces. Whoosh! Chess Venerate Saint quickly sent the immortal material, ultimate divine gold, back into Yi Qinghan's storage ring. A trace of shock appeared in his eyes as he hurriedly asked, "How much ultimate divine gold liquid did you obtain from the sealed heavens prison?" "About 400 to 500 caddies. I used some of it, so there's about 400 caddies left." Yi Qinghan shrank his head. He felt that he had done something wrong. The Holy Empire might really fly into a rage. Chess Venerate Saint and Fan Yin slapped their heads at the same time. They were shocked by Yi Qinghan's crazy behavior. "I can't protect you anymore. Go find the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. The Holy Empire's Holy Lord might not bicker with you because of him." Chess Sage shook his head. He brought the 2 little guys and broke through the void. His speed reached its peak as he rushed towards the north. Along the way, Fan Yin hit Yi Qinghan's head a few times and said angrily, "There's really nothing you don't dare to do. Do you think the Holy Empire won't be able to find out after you took out such a large piece of ultimate divine metal and so much ultimate divine liquid? You're crazy." Yi Qinghan didn't know the value of the ultimate divine metal at all. He also didn't expect this piece of ultimate divine metal to lure the Holy Empire's Holy Lord out. He was finally afraid. The Holy Empire's Holy Lord was someone who could suppress even eternal saints in hell if they offended him. The eternal saints in the Hell Pagoda at the Hell Reincarnation Cliff had yet to escape. What was a small Yi Qinghan to him? He would die with just a breath. Yi Qinghan didn't say a word along the way. Even the divine bird didn't come out to show off. After 4 to 5 days, Chess Sage brought Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin to the territory of the Heavenly Reaching Church. In the capital of the Holy Empire, Xia Jiulong couldn't catch up and returned. His face was ashen, his head was glowing green, and his breathing was rapid. At this moment, Cloud Dragon Sage also returned with a gloomy face. He went straight to the hall of Xia Jiulong's mansion. Seeing Xia Jiulong's angry face, he couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. "Jiulong, do you know your crime?" Cloud Dragon Sage scolded angrily. Xia Jiulong's face suddenly changed. He could see that Cloud Dragon Sage was really angry. He quickly got up and said, "I know my crime. I was the one who sent Yi Qinghan to the Heavenly Sealing Prison and gave him such a large piece of ultimate divine metal." Whoosh! Whoosh! Although Cloud Dragon Sage had already proven his great Tao and had no desires, that was only for low-level things. Ultimate divine metal was an immortal material that was very difficult to find. Even the 9 lords of the 9 lords couldn't gather enough immortal material to forge an eternal sacred artifact. From this, one could see how rare this item was. However, the item in front of him was actually lost. How could he not be angry? "Jiulong, if Master finds out about this, he will kill you even if you are the Emperor of the Holy Empire, let alone the fact that you are the Crown Prince with the true dragon bloodline." The Cloud Dragon Sage said angrily. "Martial Uncle Cloud Dragon, please give me a chance. Don't inform the Patriarch for now. I will definitely wring Yi Qinghan's head off and bring back the ultimate divine metal." Xia Jiulong bowed and said. Cloud Dragon Sage scratched his head anxiously and shook his head. "This matter can't be delayed. Yi Qinghan isn't alone. He has a sage and a great sage behind him. Once such a large piece of ultimate divine metal is in their hands, how can we get it back? What reason do we have to ask them for it? We can only ask for Master's help now. The chance for you to make up for your mistakes is not to wring Yi Qinghan's head off, but to inform Master and ask him to come out of seclusion and find a way to get the ultimate divine metal back." Xia Jiulong's face was pale as sweat dripped from his forehead. If he couldn't get the immortal material back, he would have to bear the responsibility alone. The baby boy was born. He weighed 6 kilograms. He didn't sleep for 2 days, so he was still in good spirits. Chapter 2023. At this moment, Xia Jiulong was truly afraid. What kind of talent could the Holy Empire not nurture? He had made such a big mistake. If the Holy Master got angry and took away his origin, everything he had would be a gift to someone else. Bang! Martial uncle, please save me. I don't want to be crippled because of this. You are the disciple that my ancestor is most proud of. A word from you is more effective than 100 words from me. I beg you. Xia Jiulong suddenly knelt on the ground, his face pale as he begged in fear. Cloud Dragon Sage's face was gloomy for a moment. He was thinking about whether it was worth it to help Xia Jiulong. Master is fair in his rewards and punishments. He will definitely punish Xia Jiulong just because he made a mistake. Moreover, this matter is so big. If I really speak for Xia Jiulong, I might even be implicated. Cloud Dragon Sage secretly muttered to himself. After a long time, he raised his head and said, "Get up first. When you go to Master, admit your mistake first. I will say a few good words for you. I believe Master will not bicker with you." "Thank you, Martial Uncle." "Thank you, Martial Uncle." Xia Jiulong was flexible and directly kowtowed to express his gratitude. Cloud Dragon Sage pulled Xia Jiulong up and headed to the southwest of the holy city. That was the entrance to the Holy Master's large world. Although his world was not as big as the Eternal World, it was not much smaller than Green Lotus Sword Song's world. However, just as they entered the Holy Master's world, they were stopped by a dignified old man. The Holy Master is in seclusion. Before he goes into seclusion, Cloud Dragon Sage and the Holy Empire's Emperor will make decisions on all matters. Another sage, but he had never appeared before. The Holy Empire's foundation was slowly being unraveled. There were many secrets that even Xia Jiulong did not know. Cloud Dragon Sage's face sank and he said with a hoarse voice, "Junior brother Cloud Dragon, this matter is very important. Can you inform Master to come out and make a decision?" The Eternal Sage expressionlessly shook his head and said, "No. The Holy Master is comprehending the supreme mystery. Nothing can compare to this matter. Therefore, if Senior Brother Cloud Dragon has something to say, it is better to discuss it with His Majesty." Xia Jiulong's pale face turned for the better. He repeatedly pulled Cloud Dragon Sage's sleeve, pleadingly. Cloud Dragon Sage sighed and could only bring Xia Jiulong away from this special world. A few days later, in the Jia courtyard of the Sky-Reaching Church, Fanning led the Chess Saint into the yard and said respectfully, "Chess Saint, I will inform Master now. Please wait here for a moment." Chess Venerable Saint nodded his head slightly. With Wen Su, the principal of the Interception Yard, accompanying him personally, Chess Venerable Saint was not idle at all. He forced Wen Su to play a game of chess with him, causing Wen Su's mind to turn into mush. They were not on the same level at all, and his Tao heart was almost shattered. Fan Yin entered the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's independent world alone. He quickly found the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. At this moment, he was resting with his eyes closed. There was a fishing rod beside him. It was as if he had nothing to do other than fishing. "Old man, I came back today because I have something very important to tell you. There are several of them. Let me tell you one by one." Fan Yin pulled over a small stool and said in a crisp voice. "You stinky girl, nothing good ever happens when you come back. You're always disturbing this old man's rest. If you have something to say it quickly and then go out to play." The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage did not seem to be arrogant at all. He was like a rotten old man who only doted on his children. Fan Yin revealed a childlike smile and said softly, "The first thing is that the Chess Saint is here. He said he wants to visit you." I think he wants to play chess with you. Oh, let's continue with the second thing. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage shook his chair and said plainly. Fan Yin thought for a while and organized her words. She laughed awkwardly and said, Your unmarried disciple has caused big trouble for you. He entered the sealed heavens prison and cheated a valuable celestial material out of it. It would not be a problem for him to forge 5 eternal holy weapons. He also got close to 250 kilograms of ultimate godly gold divine liquid, and he has officially fallen out with Xia Jiulong. Everyone knows about it. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. They were not cloudy at all. They were as bright as the stars. His benevolent face suddenly turned serious. A weird smile hung on his face. Interesting. I have never offended anyone in my life. In my entire life, I have only accepted you as my official disciple. Wen Su, Jiu Ji, and the other 2 can only be considered unofficial disciples. I just want to accept a second disciple and he has already caused such a huge commotion. Ha ha ha. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage laughed. Fan Yin laughed and said, Old man, everyone knows that he is from the heavenly Grandmaster sect. You have to protect him. If not, he will not be able to withstand the pursuit of the Holy Empire. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage glanced at Fan Yin. His expression was weird and he mocked, What? My girl has fallen in love. She actually went to plead on behalf of a brat. Where did the Fan Yin go? Old man, you are so annoying. How am I so bold? I have always been a lady. Isn't little Yi your disciple? I am protecting my junior. Furthermore, I hate that retard Xia Jiulong. The last time I fought with him, I almost died in the desert of the war tribe. How can I not want revenge? Fan Yin said coquettishly. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage leaned against the chair. He was almost lying flat on the chair. His white hair flowed in the wind. He shook his head slightly and sighed, Xia Jiulong, this person will cause problems sooner or later. He broke the balance between the various holy lands and continuously challenged their principles and bottom lines. The greater world is about to change. Fan Yin was stunned. She did not expect the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage to judge Xia Jiulong in such a way. She also did not expect the eternal world, which had been peaceful for countless years, to fall into chaos. You have to be careful when you go out in the future. If my calculations are correct, in 10,000 years at the latest and 100 years at the earliest, the greater world will descend into chaos. After 10,000 years, there will be chaos. The Holy Lands will not be able to escape. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage waved his hand and said, Call the chess Grandmaster and Yi Qinghan in. I want to see them. When Fan Yin heard this, she immediately ran away and left the lake. In the interception courtyard, Wen Su, the 9 Extremes Taoist and the Wanhong Holy Man were all green. Their hair was messy and their eyes were red. The 3 of them stared at the chessboard but were defeated by the chess Grandmaster. This kind of battle was not only about chess skills. It was also a test of one's profundity, Tao, aura and so on. Playing chess with the chess Grandmaster was beneficial to the supreme martial artists. However, once the battle reached an unbearable stage, even their souls would not be able to withstand it. This was a double-edged sword. Yi Qinghan stood at one side and did not dare to speak. He did not even dare to look at the chess pieces on the chessboard. For a rookie like him, if he looked at it, his soul would be pulled into an endless black hole. At this moment, Fan Yin rushed into the interception courtyard. She bowed and said, Chess Grandmaster, the old man wants you to go over. The chess Grandmaster waved his hand and a chess piece fell to the ground. The chess piece controlled by Wen Su and the rest disappeared instantly. Chapter 2024. With a wave of his hand, the chess saint defeated 3 powerful beings. He got up and gestured for Fan Yin to lead the way. Fan Yin glared at Yi Qinghan and said, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and come with me. Master wants to see you." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He followed behind the chess saint and Fan Yin and headed straight for the heavenly grand world. The three of them were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the entrance of the heavenly grand world. With Fan Yin leading the way, no one stopped them. Once the chess saint entered the heavenly grand world, he felt the terrifying pressure of the perfect great way. He had a new understanding of the great sage realm. Such beings were not something that small sages like them could compare to. Blue skies and white clouds. Spiritual birds and beasts were peaceful. It was not like the eternal world or other small worlds, which were filled with killing and destruction. Spiritual energy filled the air. It was like a celestial realm. Spiritual children were naughty. Whoosh! Once they entered the heavenly grand world, the three of them were pulled by a strange air current. They floated in one direction involuntarily. Even if they wanted to change direction, they could not change the will of the air current. Even the chess saint was under the control of the heavenly grand sage. His life and death were in his hands. The chess saint and Yi Qinghan were shocked. They trembled and wanted to twist their bodies to escape the pull of the air current. However, the weak air current was like the will of the heavenly way. It could not be changed by anyone. Is this the will of the great sage? The chess saint was shocked. He did not expect the gap between him and the great sage to be so big. Yi Qinghan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had never been so shocked before. It was not because he was being controlled by a stream of air, but because even someone as powerful as the chess saint was unable to resist such a simple stream of air. "Master is pulling us over." "Don't worry," Fan Yin explained. Gulp. The chess saint's Tao heart, which had remained calm for thousands of years, was shocked. How could he not be worried? At this moment, he swallowed his saliva. In the present age, all the saints in the world have entered the Tao through killing. You are the only one who has entered the Tao through chess and obtained the favor of the heavenly Tao. This old man is very curious. What kind of chess skill can obtain the recognition of the heavenly Tao? A voice filled with vicissitudes of life reverberated in the surroundings, filled with majesty. Chess venerate saint did not dare to slack off as he quickly bowed and said, "I do not dare to be favored by the heavens alone. I was fortunate enough to enter the Tao through chess. I might be able to face ordinary people, but against a few great sages, I'm still rotten and unable to withstand a single blow. An unorthodox path is an unorthodox path. It can't be considered elegant. Being overly modest means being arrogant. To be able to make this old man give you the blessing of a celestial material, you are the only one in this world." The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was far away on the wooden bridge by the lake. His supernatural awareness had already covered thousands of miles. He waved his wide white robe and the heaven and earth in his sleeves captured 3 experts, including the chess saint. Whoosh! The chess saint's eyes flashed and he appeared in front of the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Seeing the white-haired elder leaning on the chair with his back facing them, the chess venerate hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage." The chess venerate bowed, but Yi Qinghan did not dare to do so. Instead, he chose to kneel on the ground. This was not a matter of dignity, but respect for the most powerful existence in the world. "Yi Qinghan greets you, great sage. Thank you for bestowing me with the celestial mantra and allowing me to cultivate it," Yi Qinghan said respectfully. Whoosh! The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage pulled the fishing rod and pulled a spiritual fish out of the lake. Its spiritual energy was overwhelming, just like a celestial fish. It seemed to have gained sentience. At this moment, not only was it not afraid, it even bowed towards the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. "Greedy little fella will always take the bait. It's you every time. Be careful that you don't become someone else's meal next time. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage stretched out his hand to summon the spiritual fish. His old hand caressed the fish's scales as if he was caressing a child. However, there was a hidden meaning in his words. He seemed to be warning Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly and lowered his head without saying anything. Whoosh! The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage waved his hand and sent the spiritual fish into the water. After that, he placed the fishing hook back into the water. In just 3 breaths' time, the spiritual fish took the bait again. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage turned his rocking chair around and said plainly, "Did you see that? Greedy little fella. Even if you know that it's dangerous, you still want to take the risk for food. This is what it means to be unable to control one's desires. You have to pay with your life." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He knew that the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was saying that he was too greedy, but he could not refute him. "Senior Great Sage, you are right," the chess Grandmaster Grand Sage bowed and said. His expression was serious, as if the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was teaching him a lesson. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's face was gentle and kind. There were many wrinkles on his face and he looked very old. No one knew how long he had lived. His eyes were deep and they shone brightly. His eyes could see through all illusions. Even someone like the chess Grandmaster could not hide from him, much less Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's body trembled. He felt as if he had been stripped naked and thrown into the snowy plains of the extreme north. "Great Sage, you are right. I am too greedy." Yi Qinghan laughed embarrassedly. He waved his hand and took out the ultimate godly metal. The ultimate godly Vajra was about to smash through the wooden bridge. At the moment of contact, the ultimate godly metal flew up and appeared in front of the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage controlled the ultimate godly metal. The ultimate godly metal spun around and everything was exposed to his eyes. Ha ha ha. Heaven is really playing with us. Some people can't find a single piece of immortal material even after searching for thousands of miles. Xia Jiulong threw you into the heaven-sealing prison, but you cheated him of so much ultimate godly metal. Sigh. If that old fella knew about this, his expression would be very interesting. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage shook his head and laughed. Yi Qinghan laughed embarrassedly. "When I got it, I didn't know its value. I only knew that it could be used to forge some weapons. If not for Senior Fanin's reminder, I wouldn't have known that this thing could anger the Holy Master of the Holy Empire. I know that I shouldn't be so lucky, so I brought it here to show my respect to you." Ha 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 ha, the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage laughed. However, there was no greed in his laughter. He looked at the surface of the lake and smiled. "The difference between you and it is that you know when to advance and retreat, but it doesn't know when to die. However, don't worry. Although I like immortal material, I won't steal it from the younger generation. Seeing your filial piety, I will forge a weapon for you. Take it as a greeting gift for you, my future disciple." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He quickly kowtowed and said, "Disciple Yi Qinghan pays his respects to Master." The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage smiled and looked deeply at Yi Qinghan. He sighed. "You are indeed the kind of person who can climb to the top with just a stick. However, times have changed. In this era, we lack people like you. I will accept you as my disciple." "Thank you, Master. I will definitely show my filial piety to you." Yi Qinghan smiled fawningly. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage understood Yi Qinghan very well. He didn't want to say anything more. He waved his hand and said, "Don't say such empty words. I have seen all kinds of people. There are many who want to show their filial piety to me. Quickly, give me the weapon blueprint you want. Come and get it a year later." Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He didn't know how many blueprints he had for the Berserker. Among them, there were many that he couldn't forge with his current cultivation level. Now that he had free labor, it would be a waste not to use it. Chapter 2025. The originally peaceful atmosphere of the heavenly Grandmaster world suddenly turned murderous. The Milky Way churned and the stars changed. The terrifying aura grew stronger with each wave. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was actually playing chess with the chess Grandmaster Saint. He mobilized his troops and wielded the sun, the moon, and the stars. His majesty reached the clouds. The murderous aura caused all living things to become deathly silent. No one dared to stand still. Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan glanced at each other. Their souls were almost sucked away by the chess formation. They hurriedly closed their eyes and fled from the lake, not daring to take another look. Yi Qinghan escaped from the battlefield. He was drenched in cold sweat. His voice trembled as he said, "I didn't expect the great saints to be so powerful. With their own cultivation level, they can actually fight the chess Grandmaster Saint in chess. Their aura is so majestic that it can even suppress the saints." Fan Yin sneered and said disdainfully, "There are more than 30 eternal saints in the world. Every family may have some saints. The Holy Empire may have more. Although it's not clear. There should be about 50 saints in total. However, only 3 of them dare to call themselves great saints. Do you think they are called great saints for no reason? Even Wu Xinjuan, the blessed Buddha Holy Master, the Lord of Hell, and the Zhan family patriarch have to bow and call themselves juniors in front of these 3 great saints. The Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire, the Holy Emperor of the Oshi Holy Ground, and the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage of the Heavenly Grandmaster sect. These 3 were all great saints. However, everyone knew that although the great saints of the 3 dimensions were ranked equally, the strongest was definitely the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire. There was no need to doubt this. I have never seen the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire fight or reveal his cultivation level. However, I have seen the Eternal Sword Saint greet my master as a disciple and ask for guidance. Since then, the Eternal Sword Saint has never dared to show the slightest bit of arrogance in front of my master. This shows how big the gap between great saints and saints is." Fan Yin shrugged and continued, "The Holy Emperor of the Oshi Holy Land, honored master, has said that he is a genius who created his own lineage. If they really fight, the 3 great sages may not be able to determine the winner. However, when the great sages fight to the death, the mortals will suffer." Yi Qinghan nodded thoughtfully. However, Fan Yin had neglected something. Although the Eternal Sage was not as good as the Great Sage, once the Eternal Sage restrained the Great Sage, then the Great Sage would be able to tell the difference between victory and defeat, especially the 9 lords of the Holy Empire and the hidden sages. In terms of combat power, the Holy Empire was still the most powerful. I really was a frog at the bottom of a well. I didn't think that the Holy Empire I provoked would be so powerful. Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled. Master said that the world is about to change because of Xia Jiulong. He broke the balance of the Holy Lands and ignored the rules between the Holy Lands. When the time comes, a war between the Holy Lands will be inevitable. Just be careful in the future. There is no use regretting it now. Even if you avoided Yi Qinghan and gave the elixir to the Holy Empire, are you willing to be his slave for the rest of your life? Fan Yin asked. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. He never thought that he would live as a slave one day. The 2 chatted as they returned to the heavenly sect. In the interception courtyard of the heavenly sect, the master of the Yunlong prefecture personally arrived. His face was solemn as he stared at Wen Su and the others. "I am here to visit the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage on behalf of the Holy Emperor. Can't you send a message?" The master of the Yunlong prefecture frowned and asked. Wen Su, the Wanhong Holy Man, and the 9 Extremes Holy Man were helpless. It seemed that the 2 sides had been in a stalemate for a long time. "Yunlong Sage, it's not that I don't want to send a message. It's just that we don't have the right to do so. The Heavenly Grandmaster world has always been communicated with by Junior Fan Yin. Unless she's not around and there's a great matter of sect annihilation, no one can barge into the Heavenly Grandmaster world. Sage, please don't make things difficult for us. Wen Su said in a low voice. The Yunlong sage's face darkened. This time, he wanted to use the Holy Emperor's face to make the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage give in and return the ultimate holy metal and ultimate holy liquid. However, if he couldn't see the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, he couldn't do anything. At this moment, Fan Yin and Yi Qing Han appeared in the interception courtyard. They glared at each other and a murderous aura filled the air. Yi Qing Han's body was immediately imprisoned. Yi Qing Han, you've got guts. How dare you steal the Holy Empire's celestial materials? How should you be punished? The Yunlong sage stretched out his hand and grabbed Yi Qing Han. Even the three deans couldn't stop him, let alone Fan Yin. Yi Qing Han's face changed. He couldn't resist the might of the sage at all and allowed himself to be suppressed. Yunlong sage, what's the meaning of this? You came to the Heavenly Grandmaster School and acted so casually. Aren't you disrespecting the Heavenly Grandmaster School? Fan Yin questioned angrily. The Yunlong House Master snorted coldly and said calmly, this person is a criminal of the Holy Empire. Are you going to protect him? Yi Qing Han struggled fiercely but couldn't break free from the Yunlong sage's imprisonment. He could only argue, Yunlong sage, as the saying goes, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. I just walked out of the sealed heavens prison not long ago. It was you who sent me in and released me. What crime have I committed? Yi Qing Han, cut the crap. Stealing my Holy Empire's celestial materials is a capital crime. As long as you're willing to return the celestial materials, this sage will spare your life. The Yunlong sage scolded coldly. Yi Qing Han's eyes flashed coldly. He knew that he would die if he didn't admit it. He might as well take a gamble. Since the Yunlong sage didn't have any evidence, he said firmly, Yunlong sage, you're the head of the Holy Empire's 9 lords. How dare you frame someone? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world? What evidence do you have to say that I took your celestial materials? I entered the sealed heavens prison because you agreed in front of everyone. I just walked out of the prison and you're already so notorious for framing me. Even if I agreed, the Heavenly Grandmaster School wouldn't. The Yunlong Prefecture Lord looked at Yi Qing Han with disdain and replied indifferently, whether I'm framing you or not, you and I know best. The Heavenly Grandmaster Sage is a wise sage. Naturally, he wouldn't shield a criminal. Therefore, this sage doesn't think that the Heavenly Grandmaster School will make things difficult for this sage. At this time, Fan Yin stepped forward and retorted, Yunlong Prefecture Lord, you're degrading the reputation of the Heavenly Grandmaster School. How much do you care about the Heavenly Grandmaster School? Do you know Yi Qing Han's identity? He's the new direct disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage. You represent the Holy Empire's Holy Lord to enter my school and capture my direct disciple. Are you also representing the Holy Empire's Holy Lord to declare war on my Heavenly Grandmaster School? The Yunlong Prefecture Lord was shocked. He looked at Yi Qing Han and Fan Yin in surprise and asked, Yi Qing Han is the direct disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage. What proof do you have? Fan Yin shrugged and said proudly, I'm the proof. Do you think I dare to accept a disciple on behalf of my master? The Yunlong Prefecture Lord had calculated everything, but he didn't take into account Yi Qing Han's identity. Once he became a direct disciple of the great saint, things became too tricky. He couldn't attack by force. Otherwise, it would be tantamount to declaring war on the Heavenly Grandmaster School. This sage wants to see the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage. Fairy Fan Yin, please pass on the message. The Yunlong Prefecture Lord said in a low voice. Fan Yin raised her head and asked arrogantly, is the great saint someone you can see just because you want to? This lady wants to see the Holy Empire's Holy Lord. Can Yunlong Sage pass on the message for me? This sentence left Yunlong Sage speechless. Chapter 2026. Fan Yin's words were sharp and did not give Yunlong Sage any face. Yunlong Sage had nothing to say. After all, this was not his home ground. The Cloud Dragon Sage's face was solemn as he stared at Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan was really a true disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, and he had captured a true disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, wasn't that a declaration of war? Yunlong Sage exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. After a long time, he released Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, Yi Qinghan, I'll give face to the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage. If you hand over 60% of the ultimate divine gold and divine liquid, I'll pretend this never happened. Yi Qinghan was freed and his back was sweating profusely. However, seeing that Yunlong Sage did not dare to attack him in the sect of Heavenly Grandmaster, he said shamelessly, I didn't take it. You can't frame me just because you're a sage. After all, I'm the true disciple of the great sage. If you frame me, it's the same as framing the great sage. Yunlong Sage's Taoist heart was so strong that he had no desires. His pursuits were far beyond that of ordinary people. However, he was still very angry at Yi Qinghan. Gulp, Yunlong Sage did not want to argue with Yi Qinghan. He looked at him deeply and turned to leave, not even bothering with the most basic etiquette. Watching Yunlong Sage leave, Fan Yin laughed at his misfortune. You're finished. You've offended an eternal sage. Don't wake up to find that your head has been removed. Yi Qinghan curled his lips and shook his head. He could only take one step at a time. Don't worry about the eternal sage. You're now the true disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage. The eternal sage won't dare to kill you. You should worry about Xia Jiulong. Xia Jiulong is of the same generation as you. If he kills you, Master can't avenge you. Fan Yin looked at Yi Qinghan's worried face and did not want to affect his Taoist heart. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that there was no need to guard against the eternal saint. Senior sister, practice the 10-word formula and shadowless cloud manipulation with me, and teach me a few great killing moves from the Immortal Codex. Yi Qinghan said seriously. Let's go. I'll let you see the power of the 10-character formula. I'll also let you see where the gap is. Don't underestimate Xia Jiulong. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died, Fan Yin said faintly. Yi Qinghan was in high spirits. He wanted to thoroughly understand the 10-word formula and the Taiji Immortal Canon. He wanted to raise his soul to the level of a saint so that he could comprehend that immortal art. Half a year later, the Saint Chess Venerable appeared at the exit of the great heavenly realm with disheveled hair and listless eyes. He slowly walked into the interception yard. He was so tired that he could not even open his eyes. No one knew what he had gone through to make him so crazy. Impossible. Why did this happen? How could I possibly lose based on the way of chess? Chess Venerate Saint murmured. In this half a year, the Saint Chess Venerable and the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage had played chess hundreds of times. Every time, the Saint Chess Venerable was utterly defeated and his blood flowed like a river. There was no hope of victory. At this moment, his Tao heart was roaring and was about to collapse. This was the first time the Saint Chess Venerable had been beaten so badly. It was normal for him to have such an expression. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin, who were practicing in the public square, noticed the Saint Chess Venerable's panicked footsteps, pale face and listless eyes. They quickly stopped practicing and ran over. Chess Venerable, what's wrong with you? Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. The Saint Chess Venerable's eyes were red and he said in despair, is my chess skills really that weak? Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan looked at each other and asked in unison, you lost to Master? We lost terribly. There was no hope of victory at all. The Saint Chess Venerable seemed to have aged many years as he said hoarsely. Yi Qinghan laughed bitterly. This should be a problem with his level, vision and soul. After all, he is a Grandmaster Grand Sage. The gap between the two of you is like the gap between you and us. Our strongest advantage is probably a joke in front of you. Why are you so stubborn, Chess Venerable? Perhaps. The Saint Chess Venerable replied helplessly. Yi Qinghan looked at the Saint Chess Venerable's pitiful look and felt his heart ache. He quickly comforted him, Chess Venerable, this has nothing to do with your chess skills. It has to do with your level. For example, my physical body is very strong and terrifying. I am definitely the strongest in the younger generation. But can I fight against you? Obviously not. Am I going to break down too? Anyway, if it were me, I would tell myself that he is only at a higher level than me. When I reach that level, I can still defeat him with my physical body and pure strength. The Saint Chess Venerable raised his eyes slightly and looked at Yi Qinghan. He sighed and said, "Sigh, I'm not as open-minded as you. All these years of self-cultivation have been thrown away because of a chess game. I'm ashamed. It's good that the saint can think it through." Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly. Yes, that's right. While the great sage was playing chess with me, he was refining your berserk. Now that it has taken shape, its grade is naturally extraordinary. There are also 2 protective clothing and 2 pairs of eternal gloves. The great sage allowed you to drip your blood on them and use your blood essence to refine them. Although the grade will not change, it will be easier to use and its effect will be doubled. The Saint Chess Venerable nodded slightly and said. The great sage was indeed the great sage. His actions were different. He could refine so many eternal sacred weapons in half a year. Moreover, they were extraordinary and of high grade. Yi Qinghan and Fan Yin were overjoyed. With one more eternal sacred weapon, even if they were to face Xia Jiulong, they would be in an invincible position. Farewell, senior. Have a safe journey. I won't see you off. Whoosh! The 2 flew away, ignoring the Saint Chess Venerable. In the blink of an eye, they rushed to the entrance of the heavenly great world. The 2 chased each other and their speed was actually neck and neck. Yi Qinghan's shadowless cloud was about to reach the realm of great success. The gap between him and Fan Yin was slowly closing. Whoosh! The 2 crossed the long river and did not even leave a shadow behind. After an hour, they appeared not far away from the lake. The old man seemed to like this place very much and had never left. At this moment, he was using the purest heavenly fire to refine the eternal sacred weapons. 2 eternal sacred garments, 2 pairs of gloves, 1 berserk, and 1 heart protection mirror. Even if a world lord wore this outfit, the old men of the Holy Lands might not be able to kill him unless the eternal sage personally attacked. The aura of the eternal sacred garments was restrained and its power was not obvious. The 7-foot berserk was domineering and its sharp blade radiance tore through the sky. Even if it stood there motionless, it gave off a feeling of despair. Give me about 50 kilograms of the divine gold liquid. As long as I use the divine gold liquid to refine it again, the eternal sacred weapon will be complete. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage leaned back in his rocking chair and did not even open his eyes. He used his soul and will to control the heavenly fire and refine so many sacred weapons. This was the power of a great sage. Chapter 2027. The power of a grand sage was unparalleled. Other than these grand sages themselves, no one knew what level they were at. Yi Qinghan hurriedly handed over 50 kilograms of the ultimate divine gold to the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage respectfully. Just sprinkle it in the sky. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage said plainly. Yi Qinghan was stunned, but he did not suspect anything. He sprinkled 50 kilograms of the ultimate divine gold into the sky. As it descended, divine light flowed and rushed towards the eternal holy weapon. The eternal holy weapon was engulfed by the divine light. Not only did the eternal holy weapon not increase in power, it became much more restrained. Whoosh! The 7-foot berserk exuded the dark power of yin and yang. One could clearly feel two opposing currents forming around it. This kind of yin-yang 8 trigrams formation could increase the explosive power of the berserk. It could also change the power of the heavens and earth. It was definitely of the highest quality. Yi Qinghan was speechless and swallowed his saliva. He wanted nothing more than to absorb the berserk into his body. Light flashed on the berserk's blade. There was even lightning swimming inside. It was as if there was a universe inside. No one dared to touch it. The ultimate divine gold was bathed in the berserk and was slowly absorbed into the berserk. It caused the berserk to become more restrained and low profile. It's a little rough. There are not many formations inside. Play with it for now. It's enough for you. When you become stronger, you can add more formations. Even if you become an eternal holy weapon, you can still use it. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage waved his hand and the berserk, 2 divine robes and the ultimate divine gold gloves appeared before the two of them. Then, he said, there's about half of the ultimate divine gold left. Leave it with me. Thank you, Master. The two of them were extremely excited. The 2 divine robes looked thin, but they were eternal holy weapons. Even if they unleashed their full power, they would be able to resist 99% of Xia Jiulong's attack. If they wore it, they would be invincible. The eternal glove looked extremely soft, as thin as a piece of paper. Or rather, it looked like it was woven from ordinary silk. Even if he wore it on his hand, he wouldn't feel anything special. It wouldn't affect his performance. If there's anything you don't understand, come and ask me. As the saying goes, a master can show you the way, but cultivation depends on you. Don't expect me to guide you step by step. Everything will depend on your own talent and destiny. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage leaned back in his rocking chair and closed his eyes to rest. After saying a few words, he stopped talking. Yi Qinghan hurriedly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He quickly fused the 3 eternal sacred artifacts into one. With a wave of his hand, he put on the divine robe. It was black and white, and there was a yin-yang 8 trigrams diagram on his back. His chest seemed to be covered with stars, and there was a great Tao that reached the peak of the sky. This aesthetic sense is so fucking ugly. The eternal holy robe has been turned into a Taoist robe. Yi Qinghan thought honestly. Fan Yin's robe was not bad. It was not a Taoist robe, but a fairy robe. It was 7-colored and shone with treasure light. When one wore it, one would look like a fairy. The robe swayed in the wind. Yi Qinghan glanced at Fan Yin and then looked at his own robe. He knew that the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage had done this on purpose. He didn't want him to wear the robe normally. He wanted to train himself and not use the eternal holy robe to roam the world. Don't think that this robe doesn't suit your aesthetic sense. It can save your life at a critical moment. When the eternal sages see this robe, they won't attack you. Although the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage did not open his eyes, he could see through everything. He even knew what Yi Qinghan was thinking. Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly and quickly reached out to grab Frenzy. He could not calculate its weight, but it fit perfectly in his hand. However, there were 9 seals on the hilt. They were divided into 9 levels. He did not know what they were used for. He asked, "Master, what are these 9 seals for?" "They are seals to suppress frenzy. When you break through to the next level, tear open the first seal. Don't open the seals carelessly. If all 9 seals are unsealed, you won't be able to control it. Its power can not only destroy your enemy, it can also destroy you." The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage warned. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He did not expect frenzy to be so powerful at its peak. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage suddenly opened his eyes. His ancient eyes sent chills down one's spine. He looked at Yi Qinghan and said in a low voice, "Don't open the ninth seal unless you have no other choice. If the eternal sages attack you, don't worry. The ninth seal contains my most powerful attack. Even sages can't withstand it. Of course, you can't either. At most, we'll die together." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched and his eyes twitched. This was not a defensive holy garment. It was something that could kill him. Just don't open the ninth seal. This frenzy is enough for you. Fan Yin consoled him. Yi Qinghan nodded and respectfully bade farewell to the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. He kept the eternal glove and left the lake with Fan Yin. The lake fell silent again. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage opened his eyes and looked at the top of the sky. He counted with his fingers and sighed. It's getting closer. I can only help you up to this point. With someone like Yi Qinghan by your side, he should be able to help you hold Xia Jiulong back and help you step onto the path to the strongest immortal. Fan Yin and Yi Qinghan came to the core of the heavenly Grandmaster world, the Taiji Palace. The area around the Taiji Palace was a forbidden area. It was guarded by experts and magic formations. In the courtyard of the Taiji Palace, there were many stone tablets of the truth. There were thousands of mantras. The Taiji tablet was the strongest. It recorded the essence of the Taiji Immortal Code. Only 3 people had cultivated it. The Taiji steel was like a river of stars. It contained countless mystic techniques. There were no detailed explanations or moves. It all depended on one's talent and destiny. The Taiji steel contained all the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's life savings. Everything the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage knew was in the steel. How much he could understand and learn depended on luck. When Yi Qinghan saw the Taiji tablet, he was deeply attracted. Pa! Fan Yin patted the back of Yi Qinghan's head and reminded him, "Don't try to understand the Taiji tablet. Otherwise, your soul will not be able to take it. It will be sucked into the Taiji tablet and you will die." Yi Qinghan's soul returned to its original position. He stared at the Taiji tablet expectantly. He wanted to understand the supreme mantras inside. However, he had to be careful. He hurriedly asked, "Senior sister, what should I do?" "First, use your eyes to look at the Taiji tablet. Don't put your soul inside to understand. You have to adapt. Step by step. Only then can you get the most out of it." Fan Yin reminded him. Yi Qinghan nodded. He did not say anything else. He stared at the Taiji Immortal Code with wide eyes. He was intoxicated. Slowly, Yi Qinghan felt as if he had entered a river of stars. He was surrounded by the great Tao of Yin and Yang. The power here was completely different from the outside world. He could casually summon different mantras and mystical mantras. The power produced would also increase according to his own understanding. Time flew. Yi Qinghan did not know how long he had been in the Taiji tablet. In the outside world, he was covered in dust. It was as if 1,000 years had passed. Chapter 2028. Inside the Taiji steel, Yi Qinghan's soul transformed into a human form and danced with the river. The principles of Tai Chi and Yin and Yang guided 10,000 miles into harmony. The great Tao rose, the wind and clouds appeared, condensing space into earth, summoning wind and rain, changing the great Tao of the outside world. With a thought, Yin and Yang were separated. Yi Qinghan had been comprehending alone for countless years. He felt the rotation of the sun and moon, but he did not feel tired at all. He had mastered thousands of small paths and mystic arts. His battle prowess was incomparable to before. Fan Yin had already entered the depths of the Tai Chi steel to comprehend stronger holy techniques. He was one step further than Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes were tightly shut on this day, consolidating his years of cultivation. Suddenly, the immortal Bible in his sea of consciousness seemed to have a reaction. The words, "Prisoner Saint Tao Scripture," on it shone with divine light, almost opening the scripture automatically. However, this was only for a moment. The prisoner Saint Tao Scripture quickly recovered and continued to hang in the depths of his sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan was awakened by the intense reaction of the prisoner Saint Tao Scripture. He realized that he had been comprehending for a long time and was worried about the safety of Guangzhong. He quickly returned his soul to its original position. Returning to his body, he felt a little rusty after not moving for so long. He shook his body gently, causing dust to rise. Crack, crack, crack. His bones gave off a crisp sound. His Tao robe returned to his body and his gloves were attached to his hands like silk. They were faintly discernible and merged with his body. His handsome face became more vigorous and his eyes shone brighter than the stars. How many years has it been? Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. He could not be sure, but looking at Fan Yin's body beside him, he knew that a long time had passed. It's been 1,000 years. Should we go back? I miss my wife and children. The divine bird appeared and said in boredom. 1,000 years. Yi Qinghan felt like it was yesterday. He did not expect that 1,000 years had passed. Crack, crack, crack. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. With a thought, he used the Tao of nature. With a wave of his hand, he congealed the air into earth and displayed the mystery. He realized that it was so casual. It was as if he had comprehended it for many years and could use it casually. During the past 1,000 years, Yi Qinghan couldn't even remember how many minor abilities and secret magics he had learned, but they were all hovering in his spiritual ocean. As long as he needed them, he could summon them with a wave of his hand. Yi Qinghan waved his hand to dispel the sacred art. He pursed his lips and nodded hoarsely. It's time to go back and take a look. At this moment, Fan Yin's soul returned to her body. Her aura was even more otherworldly, like that of a fairy. Her face was filled with immortal light, and her cultivation was much stronger than before. However, the distance between her and Yi Qinghan was no longer like that of heaven and earth. The distance between the two was slowly closing. How long has it been? Fan Yin controlled her body and asked crisply. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, about 1,000 years. Senior sister, it's time for me to leave. I still have many things to do. I can't stay in the Taiji steel for too long. My soul is already in a saturated state. I need to train for a few days to settle down. Settling down is a must. After all, you have cultivated for too little time and lack experience. It's good to go out and walk. Fan Yin nodded in agreement with Yi Qinghan's request. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for taking care of me all these years, senior sister. Give this immortal herb to master and let him help you refine immortal pills. It's been so long. The other sacred grounds are probably turning hostile." Fan Yin took the immortal herb and flicked her hand. Her expression was impatient as she mocked, "Hurry up and scram. Once you're out of the sky-reaching church, be careful of the heart-blood guard in Xia Jiulong. I can't control you." Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. 1,000 years had passed, and he was no longer the same person as before. Even without the protection of the eternal saint garment, with his 7-foot crazed gravity and his current cultivation, ordinary upper-level cultivators were definitely not his match. In terms of speed, he was confident that apart from the top existences of the older generation, Xia Jiulong would not be able to catch up to him. Yi Qinghan left the sky-reaching great world and quickly entered the sky-reaching church. After asking around, he found that 1,000 years had indeed passed. However, it had been a very peaceful time, and nothing major had happened. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to leave, the Interception Institute's Zimo appeared in front of him. Congratulations on becoming a true disciple, senior brother Yi. This junior brother is just jealous. Mo cupped his fists and teased. Yi Qinghan laughed and said, Senior brother Mo, you don't have to be so polite. Thank you for taking care of me in the past few years. Junior brother knows that. When I'm done with this matter, I'll definitely come back and help you forge a higher level of cloud treading boots. Thank you, senior brother. Mo looked at Yi Qinghan excitedly. Seeing that he was about to leave, he quickly reminded him, Senior brother Yi, are you going out? Yi Qinghan nodded and said, Yes, I'm going back to the insane sect. Senior brother, you have to be careful outside. Right now, there are blood-robed guards everywhere outside Sky-reaching City. The 9 prefectures are also loitering nearby. They are probably targeting you. Mo reminded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan smiled and said no more. He left the Sky-reaching church and entered the city. The city was filled with experts and cultivators, but the blood-robed guards had their own characteristics. No matter how well they hid, their eyes were always fixed on Yi Qinghan. It was very easy for them to be exposed. Yi Qinghan scanned his surroundings from the corner of his eyes, his face expressionless. After leaving Skyspan City, he thought to himself, there are a total of 37 blood-robed guards along the way. 13 of them are at the upper level, and 3 of them are at the mystic realm. It seems like Xia Jiulong still respects me. As soon as he left Sky-reaching City, he felt a powerful force staring at him. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked into the distance. He saw a powerful young man. Although he didn't know his name, he knew that he was one of the 9 prefectures. He had met him once in the Shrouding Sky secret realm. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and soared into the sky. In a few flashes, he was far away from Sky-reaching City. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as Yi Qinghan left, the powerful young man chased after him. Following closely, 3 ordinary-looking experts rushed out of Sky-reaching City. They were several times faster than the young man. In the blink of an eye, they had covered 3,000 li. Inform His Highness the Crown Prince that the snake has been dispatched. The operation to capture the snake has begun. As soon as he finished speaking, the young man changed his direction and stopped chasing after Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan increased his speed, unwilling to be entangled with them. With a few flashes, he left, leaving behind even an afterimage. However, the 3 blood-robed guards were still upper realm cultivators. Moreover, they were peak existences. In a short time, they were able to close the distance. Their explosive power was much greater than that of middle realm cultivators. Yi Qinghan turned his head and glanced at the 3 blood-robed guards. He snorted disdainfully. 3 upper realm blood-robed guards. They are indeed powerful, but they are still lacking if they want to catch up to me. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped on the stars. His strange footwork increased his speed by several times. In the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he had shaken off the 3 experts behind him. 2 hours later, the 3 blood-robed guards had completely lost Yi Qinghan. Purple Guard, inform His Highness that we've lost track of Snake. Have him quickly come to our rescue, the leader of the blood-robed guards said in a low voice. One of the blood-robed guards behind him quickly left. Only 2 blood-robed guards continued their pursuit. They were still heading in the same direction as Yi Qinghan, heading toward the Eternal Sword Dao sacred land. At this moment, Xia Jiulong stood on 8-Face Mountain in the western Xiang sacred land with a sinister smile. He was neither too fast nor too slow, silently waiting for Yi Qinghan to walk into his trap. Chapter 2029. Xia Jiulong stood on the 8 Faces Mountain, his eyes and ears alert. Spies constantly came to report to him. Your Highness, Viper is missing. Please take action personally. Your Highness, Viper has changed his route. We don't know where he is now. Please make a decision. Xia Jiulong did not move as he listened to the messages. Inform all the troops not to make any moves. Tell them to wait here. Yi Qinghan will come. He just wants me to leave. I can see through these little tricks, Xia Jiulong said calmly. The spies left, leaving Xia Jiulong alone on the Eight Faces Mountain, waiting silently. Shang Jingwen, a true disciple of the Holy Land of Xixiang, appeared quietly. He looked at Xia Jiulong's back and said calmly, Your Highness, do you need my help? Xia Jiulong turned his head indifferently and looked at Shang Jingwen. He nodded and said, Jingwen, go to the Xixiang Canyon and block Yi Qinghan's last escape route. If you can block it, I will owe you a favor. A confident smile appeared on Shang Jingwen's jade-like face. He could be considered a veteran master and was close to becoming a third-rate master of the legendary level, second only to Fan Yin. His true strength was on par with the current Yi Qinghan. Your Highness, don't worry. I'm no match for you, but how can I not defeat the leader of a small sect that appeared out of nowhere? No matter how talented someone from a remote village is, he can't withstand a single blow, Shang Jingwen said calmly. Xia Jiulong snorted coldly in his heart. He did not tell Shang Jingwen about Yi Qinghan's current identity. After all, the Grand Master Grand Sage had not announced it to the world. The only ones who knew about Yi Qinghan's identity were Fan Yin, the heads of the top 3 schools, and the master of the Yunlong house. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was leisurely walking through the valley, avoiding the blood-robed guards. He also had to control his direction well. He gradually entered a forest. This was still the hinterland of the sky-reaching church, so the blood-robed guards didn't dare to be too high-profile. After traveling for 2 months, he entered the border area of the sky-reaching church. The ruins of the emperor's sect were in the northwest, and the holy land of Xixiang was in the southwest. Yi Qinghan checked the direction, then entered the mysterious and lofty mountainous area of the holy land of Xixiang. Upon entering the mountains, Yi Qinghan could sense the killing intent in this place. The blood-robed guard was much more active than the sky-reaching church. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan revealed the muslin-like gloves. The power gathered was extremely fast, and it could multiply his strength by several times. Even though it was just a layer of muslin-like gloves, it could actually block 60% of the attack power of an expert of Wen Su's level. Bang bang bang. Yi Qinghan's fists collided a few times and his body swayed. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Since you want to play, I'll play along with you. Let's see how many blood-robed guards there are for me to kill. Yi Qinghan sneered as he charged into the distance. In front of him, there were 5 or 6 middle-aged experts dressed like adventurers. They were sitting in the valley and talking with fervor. They were also talking about their experiences of adventuring. Their cultivations were uneven. 2 of them were at the lower level, 1 was at the middle level, and the other 2 were at the upper level. Their auras were restrained. They were definitely experts. Yi Qinghan stared at them from afar. After observing them for a while, he smiled and said, If you are really adventurers, why don't you stay vigilant? There are many powerful fierce beasts in this place. Crack! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists and restrained his aura. He pretended as if nothing had happened and walked toward those people. In the morning, the mountain was filled with fog, and the sunlight was blocked. The visibility was not high, only about 30 to 50 meters. Yi Qinghan hummed a little tune. With an innocent face, he quickly approached those 5 or 6 adventurers. Whoosh! As soon as the 5 or 6 adventurers saw someone approaching, they quickly pressed their hands on the divine swords beside them. However, the expressions of the 2 powerful upper-level blood-robed guards changed. They signaled everyone to calm down. Then, the 2 upper-level blood-robed guards looked at each other and slowly sat down as if they had not seen Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley, cupped his fists, and said with a smile, fellow adventurers, I am a new disciple of the sky-piercing school. I have come to this mountain area to look for some medicinal herbs. I wonder if you can take me along. I am willing to share 30% of the things I obtain with you." The 5 experts were very calm. However, the 2 in the lead quickly showed a happy expression. They cupped their fists and said, "So it is an outstanding disciple of the sky-piercing school. We are honored to show you the way." Yi Qinghan looked at the 5 people's expressions and said inwardly, "Their reflexes are too slow. If they were really adventurers, they would have stood up and greeted me. After all, an outstanding disciple of the sky-piercing school is the same as an imperial family of a holy empire. Who wouldn't want to curry favor with them?" However, Yi Qinghan did not expose them. He could use them to find out Xia Jiulong's real location. "Then I will have to trouble you, fellow Taoists. I wonder if there are any dangerous places with more spiritual herbs nearby?" Yi Qinghan asked. "This old man has been adventuring in this place for many years, so I am very familiar with this place. If you want to talk about the place with the most treasures, then there is 8 Faces Mountain. The mountain path there is rugged and steep, and there are the most ferocious beasts there. Moreover, they are all very powerful. Ordinary people don't dare to enter this place. Therefore, the sacred herbs there are thousands or even tens of thousands of years old. If you are lucky, it is not impossible to come across 100,000-year-old sacred herb." Yi Qinghan pretended to be overjoyed. However, he already understood that even if Xia Jiulong was not at 8-Face Mountain, there must be many experts lying in ambush nearby. Now, all he had to do was close the door and attack. How can I kill 2 upper-level experts in the shortest time possible without giving them a chance to retaliate? Yi Qinghan thought to himself as he stared at the positions of the 5 people. They were standing in a position where they could help each other and react in an instant. It was impossible to ambush them. After all, upper-level experts were upper-level experts. The difference between them and ordinary middle-level experts was more than 100 times. Even for an outstanding expert like himself, there was still a difference of 2 or 3 times. "Fellow Taoists, please lead the way. If I obtain a 10,000-year-old sacred herb, I will definitely reward you handsomely," Yi Qinghan said as he cupped his fists. The 5 of them gripped their swords even tighter, but the 2 upper-level experts' expressions were very natural. Their eyes signaled the other 3 blood-robed guards to lead the way, while the 2 upper-level experts spread out and surrounded Yi Qinghan from the left and right, trapping him in the middle. Yi Qinghan pretended not to know and silently followed them. As they walked towards 8-Face Mountain, he was quickly calculating in his mind. "With the support of the eternal sacred weapon, my combat power should be comparable to a true upper-level expert. If I attack them head-on, I can kill these 5 people. However, my position will definitely be exposed. Therefore, I can only use my wits and kill these 2 upper-level experts first." Yi Qinghan thought silently. He slowly released the start-whining vine and slowed it down, closing the distance between him and the 2 upper-level experts. Chapter 20:30. Yi Qinghan slowed down, and the star-entwining vine was ready to strike. The 2 upper-level masters behind him had their hands on the hilts of their swords, but they did not take the initiative to attack. It would be best if they could bring Yi Qinghan into 8-Faces Mountain. Once they failed, they could attack. Yi Qinghan smiled and said as he walked, "My friends, you seem to be very familiar with this place." The 2 upper-level powerhouses put on a fake smile and replied, "Our team has been traveling in this place for at least 10,000 years. We know this place like the back of our hands. Esteemed Lord from the Holy Land, you don't have to worry. Once you reach 8-Faces Mountain, you'll find riches everywhere." Yi Qinghan purposely talked nonsense. After a long while, he said meaningfully, "Unfortunately, there are still many things you don't know. For example, my true identity." One of the upper-level masters smiled evilly and said, "Aren't you a disciple of the sky-reaching school? Yi Qinghan said calmly, actually, I'm not just a disciple of the sky-reaching school. I'm also a true disciple of the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Ha ha ha, when the five of them heard this, they suddenly laughed as if they found it ridiculous. At this moment, Yi Qinghan suddenly manifested the yin-yang Taoist robe. Although its aura was restrained, the five of them were so close to it. Even if they were stupid, they should know that this was not something an ordinary person could possess. This was exactly the effect Yi Qinghan wanted. The five of them were stunned for a moment, but Yi Qinghan's tightly clenched fist, coupled with the power of the glove, and the surrounding airflow followed the power of yin and yang to imprison one of the upper-level experts. Yi Qinghan's fist smashed into the expert's chest with the force of thunder. Bang! Boom! This punch had the power to split mountains and split the earth. After it landed on the chest of the upper level, the order of the upper level's body was completely shattered. The energy in the cells was detonated, and even the soul was blown up in an instant. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In this instant, the star-entwining vine extended countless vines and stopped the three masters in front. The impact of the vines was enough to shatter their defenses and wrap around their bodies. Die! The veins on Yi Qinghan's right arm bulged. He pulled his wrist back and used the inch strike technique to shatter the corpse of the upper-level cultivator, scattering it all over the place. It was so fast that the other blood strike guard didn't even have a chance to react. Yi Qinghan had already killed this powerful blood strike guard. However, his reaction speed was still very fast. By the time Yi Qinghan had finished off the blood strike guard, he had already unsheathed his divine sword and pointed it at Yi Qinghan's back. Whoosh. The power of the sword was like a rainbow, appearing behind Yi Qinghan with the speed of a thunderbolt. Boom! The sword chi collided with the Taoist robe, and the Taiji yin-yang formation behind it shone with divine light. It spun like a black hole, sucking away all the attacking power of the upper plane. It was as if the sword had stabbed into an endless abyss, and had no effect at all. Boom! The body of the divine sword followed closely behind and stabbed into the Taoist robe. It was as if it had hit the top of the vault of heaven. The majestic recoil was actually several times stronger than the attacking power of the upper plane cultivator. It came rushing back with the strongest momentum. Bang! Pft! Not only did the upper plane cultivator fail to kill Yi Qinghan, but he was also sent flying hundreds of meters away by the impact. His body was like a kite that had lost control. He coughed up blood continuously, and his eyes were filled with fear and despair. Boom! After Yi Qinghan killed the upper plane cultivator, he twisted his body and crushed the mountain rocks with his feet. He flipped his body in the air and grabbed at the air. Heavy madness appeared in his hand. Die! Whoosh! Heavy madness affected the Taiji yin-yang formation. It carried the power of heaven and earth and imprisoned the upper plane cultivator in the air currents, making it impossible for him to break free. Boom! This saber seemed to want to split the heavens and earth and split the starry sky. It came down from the sky and crushed the upper plane cultivator into powder. His body couldn't withstand the pressure from heavy madness and exploded in the sky. He was torn apart, and blood stained the sky. 2 upper plane blood guards died in less than 3 breaths. It was like lightning. The remaining 3 weaker middle plane and lower plane cultivators were wrapped up by the star-twining vine. Before they could break free, they felt a power that could tear the heavens and earth apart like a surging sea. In comparison, they were the safest with the star-twining vine wrapped around them. Whoosh! The star-twining vine quickly retracted and released the 3 blood guards. However, before they could see clearly, Yi Qinghan smashed them into pieces with his saber. They were all swallowed by the star-twining vine, and their vigorous chi and blood were not wasted. Whoosh! The Taoist robe was kept inside his body. Heavy madness didn't look like an eternal divine artifact. It didn't have an eternal divine aura, only a flowing treasure light. He carried it on his shoulder, looking extremely domineering. Yi Qinghan grinned and said, "It's really domineering." With heavy madness, even if Xia Jiulong's 9 Dragons fan revives, he might not be able to withstand a single saber strike from me. Xia Jiulong, we can fight today. However, I have to clean up some small fries first so that they won't disturb our battle. Yi Qinghan was extremely confident. Carrying the 7-foot heavy machine, he entered the wilderness and searched for blood-robed guards. He cleaned them up step by step, and after 3 to 5 days, he had killed more than 30 blood-robed guards. Among them, there were at least 9 upper realm blood-robed guards. The number of blood guards was dwindling, and even some of the spies couldn't report any more information. Xia Jiulong stood on 8 Faces Mountain, his eyes flashing with a sinister light. At that moment, Xian Xiu appeared behind him and said respectfully, "Your Highness, the number of blood guards has decreased by about 10%. We lost 2 9-star spies and at least 10 8-star spies. If this continues, we won't be able to afford the losses." How did he do it? Even I can't kill so many upper plane blood guards. After all, they are upper plane blood guards. Xia Jiulong took a deep breath and asked. Xian Xiu shook his head and said helplessly, "None of the blood guards he encountered survived. No one knows how he killed so many blood guards. Besides, it doesn't look like a big battle happened. A sneak attack might succeed once or twice, but he has already killed dozens of teams of experts. He can't do it without a foundation." Xia Jiulong's eyes were dark as he gazed at the endless mountain range. The 9 Dragons fan appeared in his hand. "Inform the blood guards to withdraw from the battle zone. Leave the rest to me. I want to see how strong Yi Qinghan has become in the past 1,000 years." Xia Jiulong opened the 9 Dragons fan and waved it a few times. The wind and clouds suddenly changed and the air currents surged. As soon as the news spread, the blood guards quickly retreated and left the battle zone. Yi Qinghan searched for 2 days, but he couldn't find a single blood guard. He could only mix in with a group of adventurers and inadvertently enter Xixiang Canyon. Shang Jingwen was overseeing the canyon. He was an overlord, and although he was only a middle plane blood guard, he was even more difficult to deal with than the upper plane blood guards. Yi Qinghan sensed a faint energy in Xixiang Canyon from afar. Out of curiosity, he still chose to enter to take a look. Shang Jingwen watched as a group of adventurers entered the canyon. His eyes were like torches as he stared at Yi Qinghan. The sword in his hand was already slowly unsheathed. Chapter 2031. Shang Jingwen looked to be only 27 or 28 years old. Compared to a middle-level practitioner, he was considered very young. He was incomparably powerful and was one of the best among the legendary experts. The only ones who could surpass him were Xia Jiulong, Fan Ying, and the Son of Battle. Shang Jingwen was about 7 feet tall. He was slightly shorter than Yi Qinghan, but he looked more heroic and more delicate. He was very suitable for human aesthetics. Compared to Yi Qinghan, he was more gentle and less domineering. His sword was like 3 feet of autumn wind, swift and fierce. Ding! The sword whistled in a low voice. It was melodious and melodious. The sword aura slowly merged with the sunlight without alarming anyone. The divine sword was unsheathed and hidden behind his arm. The scabbard directly pierced into the rock. Shang Jingwen slowly walked towards the entrance of the canyon and blocked everyone's path. Shang Jingwen's attire was clearly a top-notch existence from the holy land of Xixiang. His shoulders were embroidered with undulating mountain peaks. Immortal qi lingered in the air. It was magnificent and magnificent. The mystery of Xixiang was fully revealed here. Those adventurers were shocked. How could they not recognize the top-notch existence from the holy land of Xixiang? There was only one person among the younger generation with such pressure. This old man is Shang Guanjiang. Greetings to the Holy Sun. I didn't know you were here. Please forgive me for disturbing you. The leader of the adventurer team quickly bowed and said. The Holy Sun was a true disciple who was one level higher than the Holy Sun. Their master was an eternal sovereign. Every Holy Sun represented the eternal sovereign behind them. Their status was very high. Even the upper-level practitioners didn't dare to blaspheme against them. Shang Jingwen smiled. He was cultured and elegant. His heroic spirit was compelling. He was like a woman who could topple all living things. This smile made these adventurers like him. This kind of affinity was definitely second to none. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. I'm here to wait for an expert. I really want to spar with him, so I should be the one disturbing you. You can go in deeper. Sect Leader Yi, can you stay? Shang Jingwen's voice was very magnetic and melodious. He spoke politely, but his words were filled with dominance and willpower. However, his tone and expression made people unable to vent their anger. The adventurers were shocked. They were all familiar with each other. Only Yi Qinghan joined later. They could only see that Yi Qinghan's cultivation was very strong, so they wanted to make use of him. They didn't expect that he could make the Holy Son of Xixiang Holy Land challenge him personally. Yi Qinghan smiled. He'd met Shang Jingwen once before, at the sacred city of the Sword Dao Sacred Land. He'd had a good impression of Shang Jingwen during the pilgrimage. Though the man was a little conceited, he wasn't a bad person at heart. Greetings, fellow Daoist Jingwen. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said. Shang Jingwen smiled and waved his hand to signal the other adventurers to leave. The adventurers didn't dare get involved. They hurriedly bowed and rushed into the valley. They didn't want to linger for too long, for fear of being attacked. Defeat me, Sect Head Yi. You can enter Xixiang Valley and take the path to the eternal sacred land. If you can't, you can return the way you came. I won't make things difficult for you, Shang Jingwen said coolly. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently and shook his head. Fellow Daoist Jingwen, you shouldn't get involved in the matter between me and Xia Jiolong. It's not a good thing to invite trouble upon yourself. Shang Jingwen replied calmly, I'm not inviting trouble. First of all, I don't think you can escape today. Second, I hope the 9 Dragons Crown Prince owes me a favor. I need him to help me this once. Ha ha ha, Yi Qinghan laughed loudly and said firmly, then I'm sorry, but you won't be able to get the favor. You can't stop me. You'll know when you try. Shang Jingwen waved his hand and placed the divine sword in front of his chest. His overwhelming sword qi met the righteous energy of heaven and earth. His pure sword qi wasn't inferior to Lin Wutian's. If Lin Wutian didn't use the Green Lotus Sword Song, he wouldn't be a match for Shang Jingwen. Yi Qinghan felt a sharp pain on his face. The sword qi was so powerful that even his protective armor couldn't block it. However, he didn't use his eternal sacred tool. He wanted to fight Shang Jingwen fairly. Whoosh! Gauntlets appeared on his palms. The gauntlets were like soft gauze, flowing with light. Although they were made of eternal sacred artifact material, these gauntlets did not have the attack power of eternal sacred artifacts. At most, they could increase his strength by 3 to 5 times. Against Shang Jingwen with his bare hands, using the gauntlets was not an advantage. Please. Yi Qinghan gestured with his hand. Shang Jingwen looked at Yi Qinghan's gloves and frowned. He could tell that they weren't ordinary gloves, but he didn't think he had the advantage. Whoosh! Shang Jingwen waved his sword and the sword light soared into the sky. Lightning swam on the sword edge, full of the mystery of Sword Dao. It must have been made by the eternal sacred ground of Xixiang. Be careful. Hum. The divine sword in Shang Jingwen's hand trembled, and sword shadows spread out in all directions. 10,000 sword shadows flew through the air, and all of them contained destructive power. Anything that came into contact with the mountain rocks and ancient trees would be reduced to dust. The sharp sword chi was enough to tear apart Yi Qinghan's protective clothing. Boom! Yi Qinghan's aura surged and rushed to the Milky Way. His upstanding chi protected his body and his precious saint body glowed, blocking the terrifying sword chi. He crossed his hands and the yin and yang chi spun faster and faster. It actually forced the sword shadows into the vortex. The powerful yin and yang airflow was like a black hole. Even light couldn't break free from its shackles. Yi Qinghan's speed was getting faster and faster. The mystery of the Taiji Celestial Codex was fully revealed. Now, it wasn't just the 10-word formula. There were also the real mysteries of the Celestial Codex. Even a true saint like Shang Jingwen couldn't break his defense. Shang Jingwen's eyes flashed coldly. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like the sun. He was in midair. Thousands of sword shadows merged into one and gathered the power of heaven and earth. He and his sword became one and tore the void apart. His chi soared into the sky and affected the stars in the sky. The sun and the moon appeared at the same time. Boom! Whoosh! The divine sword was like a hot knife through butter. It wanted to tear apart the yin and yang airflow in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was even more powerful. His right hand stretched out from the back of the yin and yang airflow to grab the divine sword. Boom! Faster than words could tell. The two collided in an instant. Yi Qinghan's big hand grabbed the blade of the sword. The veins on his body bulged. He stood proudly like a god of war. He crossed his legs and used the power of the yin and yang airflow to block Shang Jingwen's attack. Shang Jingwen's expression changed. He knew that it was too late to pull back his sword. He could only use all of his strength and charge forward at high speed. He wanted to destroy Yi Qinghan's body. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan couldn't block Shang Jingwen's sword even if he used the power of the heaven-splitting technique. He kept retreating. His big feet crushed the mountain rocks. He put his palms together and clamped down on Shang Jingwen's divine sword. He kept retreating to reduce the impact. After retreating 1,000 meters, he planted his legs on the ground and bent forward. He used the 3 major moves of the 10-word formula: sticky, return, and tremor. His moves were as smooth as flowing water. He returned Shang Jingwen's sword with double the force. Boom! Shang Jingwen suffered a violent counterattack. His body couldn't borrow any strength in the air. He kept flipping in the air. His expression changed. The divine sword in his hand trembled rapidly. The web between his thumb and forefinger was almost torn apart. Blood flowed out. At this moment, although Yi Qinghan was slightly better, his body also felt as if it had been struck by lightning. He retreated several hundred meters before he could steady himself. His entire right arm, except for his palm, felt as if it had been struck by lightning. It was numb and sore. It took a long time for him to recover. Shang Jingwen's face was pale. He steadied himself and looked at Yi Qinghan's glove. He said in a serious voice, "Is this an eternal sacred artifact defensive glove?" Chapter 2032. Yi Qinghan nodded and said indifferently, "You can say that. But it doesn't have the offensive power of an eternal sacred artifact. Otherwise, you would be dead already." Shang Jingwen's mouth twitched. The sword in his hand was a little unstable. His eyes flashed with fighting spirit. After a long time, he said indifferently, "Your gloves can only defend against fists. My sword can not only stab your palm." Yi Qinghan's hands moved the mountains and rivers. He gathered his momentum and spread his legs apart. His hands clasped together as he formed the starting stance of the 10-word spell. You'll know once you try. I'll use you to practice and then bully Xia Jiulong. Yi Qinghan countered confidently. Shang Jingwen's face was gloomy. He said disdainfully, if you can't even beat me, how can you beat Xia Jiulong? Whoosh. Shang Jingwen transformed into a divine sword and commanded the heavens. The sword in his hand trembled and sword chi shot out in all directions. Everything in the surroundings was uprooted. The myriad ancient tree transformed into sharp swords and rushed towards Yi Qinghan from all directions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 10,000 swords shot out in unison and swept across the land. Every branch was like a medium sacred artifact. They tore through the void and headed straight for Yi Qinghan's fatal spots. Furthermore, all his escape routes were blocked. The rain of swords in the sky made him despair. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hands and stirred up the sun and moon in front of him. The yin-yang formation was like a black hole vortex. The vortex grew bigger and the tearing force became stronger. The branches and stones that contained the power to split the heavens twisted their trajectories and rushed towards the vortex. Shang Jingwen's eyes were like torches. He became one with his sword and attacked Yi Qinghan again. At this moment, Yi Qinghan flipped his palms and placed them in front of his chest. He pushed forward forcefully. The terrifying power of the yin-yang vortex increased exponentially and rushed back at Shang Jingwen. Whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sword-like branches and stones were undamaged. They rushed towards Shang Jingwen with even greater speed and strength. Shang Jingwen was shocked. He quickly retreated. The sword in his hand swirled the air and swept the stones and branches into the sword chi. However, some of the branches and stones broke through the void and attacked him. Bang 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 bang. The pebbles and tree branches smashed into Shang Jingwen's body, shattering them into pieces. The terrifying force pierced through the defensive divine clothes and sent Shang Jingwen flying. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the mountain rock and sped over like a shooting star. He waved his iron fist and smashed it towards Shang Jingwen, leaving behind a trail of flaming lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above Shang Jingwen, his iron fist vertically downwards. Shang Jingwen's expression remained the same. He watched as Yi Qinghan charged towards him, bringing with him the power of heaven and earth. His aura was irresistible. However, Shang Jingwen did not reveal any expression of shock. Instead, he calmly landed on the ground. He gripped the hilt of his sword with both hands and gathered all his strength at the tip of his sword. Lightning tore at the tip of his sword as his sword chi formed a sword aura that protected his golden body. He then charged into the sky and clashed head-on with Yi Qinghan. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Shang Jingwen's divine sword collided with Yi Qinghan's iron fist. His divine power exploded as a shockwave swept out in all directions. The cliffs on both sides of the canyon shook as gravel flew in all directions. Bang! Both of them had used up all their strength. When their attacks collided, one of them was sent flying into the sky while the other crashed onto the ground. Both of them had lost control of their bodies and could not sustain a second attack. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body soared into the clouds. The astral winds and spatial storms at the peak of the sky were enough to tear an upper plane cultivator apart. He was hit by the storm. In an instant, his divine robes were torn to shreds and his holy golden body was a bloody mess. Hiss, hiss. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. His scalp went numb and he felt as if his soul was about to be shredded. At this moment, he finally understood why people in the great world could not fly. Even if upper plane cultivators could fly for a short period of time, they would not dare to fly too high. Boom. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's Taoist robes covered his golden body with a single thought. A layer of faintly discernible golden light appeared on the surface of his body, protecting his body. The strong astral winds and storms could not threaten him at all. This is indeed a good item. As expected of a great saint. Yi Qinghan looked at the spatial storm in the sky. It could tear everything apart. Once one fell into the black hole, even with the protection of the Taoist robes, one might not be able to come out alive. This was because no one could be sure where one would appear in the next moment after entering the black hole. Yi Qinghan did not dare to stay for long. He hurriedly leaped into the air and flew downwards. At this moment, Shang Jingwen crawled out of the deep pit. The web between his thumb and forefinger was cracked. His face was full of shock. He wanted to find traces of Yi Qinghan, but he did not know where to go. Yi Qinghan was currently hiding in a valley. He hurriedly withdrew his yin and yang Taoist robes and changed into an ordinary divine robe. His body was bleeding profusely. The damage caused by the spatial storm could not be healed in a short period of time. Most importantly, the pain was unbearable. Fuck! Yi Qinghan cursed. He swallowed a divine elixir and mobilized his divine power to quickly heal his injured body. Fortunately, the golden body absolute saint could already form a great cycle. His wounds healed quickly, and his elasticity became stronger. His defensive power was also slightly better than other places. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He would rather not use this kind of body refinement method. It was too dangerous. He could get lost in the spatial storm and the black hole at any time. Moreover, those storms were enough to destroy him. At this moment, a figure appeared in Shixiang Canyon. He was as fast as lightning. The 7 figures behind him were like real bodies. Moments later, they slowly dissipated. He was Xia Jiulong. He held the 9 dragons fan in his hand. His expression was as usual and incomparably dignified. His dragon robes fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like stars as he scanned the surroundings. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the battered Shang Jingwen. Where is he? Alone. Xia Jiulong frowned. He felt that it was impossible for Yi Qinghan to beat Shang Jingwen into such a sorry state. Shang Jingwen took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "He's alone. When I collided with him, he lost control of his body and rushed into the clouds. Ordinary people can't fly there. He should be nearby." Xia Jiulong leaped and appeared in midair. He scanned the surroundings, searching for Yi Qinghan's position. At this moment, Yi Qinghan did not evade. Instead, he took the initiative to walk toward Xia Jiulong. He smiled as if he had met an old acquaintance. "Crown Prince, long time no see. You don't look too good." Yi Qinghan teased. Xia Jiulong's mouth twitched. The flames in his eyes almost condensed into substance. He opened the 9 dragons fan and released a torrential pressure. Yi Qinghan, a straightforward person, does not resort to insinuations. "I'll show you my bottom line. Hand over the ultimate divine metal and ultimate divine liquid to me and I'll write off our grudges. I won't seek you out again. Otherwise." Xia Jiulong glared at Yi Qinghan and said coldly. Yi Qinghan arrived not too far away from the two. He leaned against a rock and asked curiously, "Otherwise what?" "Otherwise, don't blame me for bullying you." Xia Jiulong replied coldly. Hearing this, Yi Qinghan laughed and asked, "You want to bully me with your foundation?" "That's what I'm thinking. I was just thinking of an excuse to bully you. Now that you've said this, I'm relieved." Xia Jiulong and Shang Jingwen stared at Yi Qinghan. They wanted to see what he was up to. At this moment, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and crazed heavy appeared in his hand. Before Xia Jiulong and Shang Jingwen could be surprised, the yin-yang Taoist robe also appeared to protect his golden body. "Today, I also want to use my background to bully the number 1 expert of the younger generation." Yi Qinghan sneered. Xia Jiulong was shocked. He was someone who knew his stuff. The Taoist robe that Yi Qinghan was wearing was definitely of the highest quality. It was made of the best material, without a single defect. Just like Crazy Zhong, it was made of supreme divine metal. Chapter 2033. Xia Jiulong's face turned green when he saw Yi Qinghan's equipment. He wanted to abuse Yi Qinghan with his equipment, but he didn't expect Yi Qinghan's equipment to be even better than his. 3 eternal sacred artifacts. Although they didn't have the pressure and support of a real sacred artifact, Xia Jiulong didn't have any of them. Boom! Yi Qinghan stabbed Zhong Kuang into the ground. His aura soared as he held the hilt. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Crown Prince, let me see what you've got." Xia Jiulong took a deep breath and shook the 9-dragon fan. His dragon robe emitted a divine light as it quietly changed. A golden dragon swam in his dragon robe. It was so lifelike that it looked like a real dragon was imprisoned in it to support the defense of the dragon robe. The Holy Empire's holy dragon robe. Isn't this worn by the Emperor? Shang Jingwen was shocked. He was stunned by Xia Jiulong's strength. Then, he looked at Yi Qinghan's equipment. Sweat dripped down his forehead like rain. Jealousy and envy appeared in his eyes. This was too fucking infuriating. This was simply a form of injury. They were both true disciples, but why was the gap so big? Yi Qinghan and Xia Jiulong were 100 meters apart. Their robes were emitting a divine light as if they were fighting, unwilling to submit to each other. Their auras grew stronger and stronger. The heavenly dragon broke through the sky and formed a huge shadow behind Xia Jiulong. It looked down at Yi Qinghan. A yin and yang vortex appeared behind Yi Qinghan. It was a natural Tao, and heaven and earth roared. It was a beautiful scene, but the moment he drew his blade, his aura and the surrounding aura became domineering and crazy. "Crown Prince, I'd like to exchange a few moves with you today. We've fought twice in the past, but it was never a fair fight. Today, it's a fair fight." Yi Qinghan yelled as he grinned wickedly. Xia Jiulong's face was gloomy and murderous. He gently waved the 9-dragon fan, and heaven and earth roared. The mountain range was like a dragon swallowing the essence of the sun and moon. Trillions of stars moved and converged into 9 heavenly dragons that crossed the top of the world. Xia Jiulong had cultivated to the 32nd level of the stellar art. He could change the order of the great Tao and control the stars. Shang Jingwen was deeply hurt. At this moment, the reason why Yi Qinghan and Xia Jiulong could not be resisted was not because their battle prowess had reached a point of despair, but because their equipment was too awesome. They were so awesome that they were already in an undefeatable position before the battle even began. Shashasha.whoosh. Shang Jingwen quickly left. He did not want to stay in the center of the battlefield. It was not that he was not strong enough, but he could not afford to provoke the two of them. Moments after Shang Jingwen left, Yi Qinghan raised his frenzy saber. His frenzy saber stirred up a storm of lightning. Purple lightning wandered about, and the shaking mountain range quickly returned to its original position. It had been forcefully suppressed in place as it contended with Xia Jiulong. Art of the stars, shift the dragon veins of the heavens and earth, defy the heavens and change fate, transform into a long river, and move the myriad stars for me. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong bathed in the Milky Way. His body was like a god of war, absorbing the power of heaven and earth. The 9 dragons' fan stirred slightly, and the universe became restless. The 9 dragons appeared and moved side by side. With a wave of the fan's tail, the 9 dragons roared and charged towards Yi Qinghan. Although the 9 dragons were not real dragons, they were formed by Xia Jiulong gathering the power of countless stars, the sun, and the moon. The 9 dragons formed by the stars in the sky moved in unison with the 9 divine dragons formed by Xia Jiulong. They brought with them the power of heaven and smashed towards the ground. Boom! When the divine dragons went to war, not a blade of grass would survive. The enemy would not rest until they were dead. Whoosh! The divine dragons swung their tails, and the airwaves swept out. Rocks pierced through the cliff and fell from the sky, smashing towards Yi Qinghan. Roar! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and danced. His saber had the power to split the heavens and earth. He soared into the sky like a sharp sword, and his saber cut open the sky. Saber radiance shot out in all directions towards the 9 dragons. Boom! The airwaves from the two collided. Lightning and dragon power tore at each other, and the airwaves spread out 1,000 meters. The surroundings were razed to the ground, and after they crashed into the sides of the canyon, the world shook. Bam 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 bam. Immediately after, the 7-foot frenzy was as fast as lightning. He slashed out 9 times consecutively, and each slash accurately struck the dragon's tails. The strong impact made one's scalp tingle, and their hair stood on end. Open! Yi Qinghan clenched the frenzy and roared. The world changed color, as if it was going to split the world apart. Roar! The 9 dragons roared together, and their tails cracked. They were actually split apart by Yi Qinghan's saber. Crack crack crack. The sound of bones breaking echoed for hundreds of miles. Even Shang Jingwen, who was hundreds of miles away, could hear it clearly. Boom! The 9 divine dragons formed by divine power instantly collapsed. Yi Qinghan's aura was like a rainbow. His Taoist robe absorbed all the chaotic and violent energy for his own use. He added it to the frenzy saber and charged towards Xia Jiulong with an even stronger aura. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed like lightning. He held the 9 dragons fan in his hand and charged towards Yi Qinghan. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom boom boom. The two of them relied on their invincible defense to kill each other. One of them had the strength to pick up mountains, while the other had the speed to steal the heavens. They constantly collided and swooped down. The saber light rushed into the depths of the universe. A few short sabers appeared at the tip of the 9 dragons' fan. They were all made of top-grade immortal materials. They slammed into the frenzy saber, creating ear-piercing and soul-piercing sounds. Crack crack crack. The two of them collided thousands of times, collapsing Shixiang Canyon. Everyone within 1,000 miles could see it clearly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's saber slashed past Xia Jiulong's side and into the northern side of Shixiang Canyon. It actually cut off half of the cliff. Boom! Xia Jiulong's forehead was covered in sweat. The majestic power of the stars continued to strengthen his golden body. The sacred dragon robe absorbed 90% of the aftershocks from each collision, but his hands were trembling slightly. Neither of them was willing to be outdone. Techniques were superfluous. They were all fighting head-on. Slash! 9 dragons annihilation. Explode! Although the two of them were panting, they did not stop. They gathered their peak strength and slammed into each other again. Although 90% of the aftershocks were absorbed by the Taoist robe and sacred dragon robe, the impact sent the two of them flying 1,000 meters away and crashing into the ground. Bang! Yi Qinghan was smashed into a deep pit. Even frenzy was thrown to the side. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn. Blood stained his Taoist robe. His eyes were seeing stars. He struggled to crawl out of the pit. Xia Jiulong did not have it easy either. His previous arrogance was now in a sorry state. Although his injuries were not serious, he was exhausted. He was so exhausted that he could not even hold the 9 dragons' fan. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan grabbed at the air and charged at Xia Jiulong. He roared, "Come on! Let's hurt each other. Let's see who can last until the end." Xia Jiulong's face was livid. His combat techniques were clearly much stronger than Yi Qinghan's, but in terms of physical strength, even 10 of him might not be a match for Yi Qinghan. At that moment, their equipment was about the same. Yi Qinghan even had an extra pair of gloves. If they continued fighting, he would be at a disadvantage. Scram! Xia Jiulong mobilized the cosmic stars as the stars in the sky converged into one. He charged at Yi Qinghan with the force of a thunderbolt. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and slashed down. However, it was as though the saber had struck a saint. It was powerless. Frenzy left his hand as his Taoist robe emitted a glow that surged into the clouds. The Yin-Yang Grand Array had been activated to its peak, but it still had not absorbed all of its strength. The remaining force smashed Yi Qinghan into Xixiang Valley and into the mountain. Half of the cliff was smashed into pieces. Xia Jiulong's strike emptied his soul. He collapsed to the ground, his face pale. This was a forbidden technique. Chapter 2034. Xia Jiulong collapsed on the ground. His eyes were lifeless and his face was as pale as paper. The nine-dragon fan returned to his hand and he looked into the depths of the canyon. "You're not dead yet," Xia Jiulong said coldly. Half of the canyon was flattened and the rocks were uneven. Yi Qinghan was nowhere to be seen. Only Zhong Kuang was stuck in the mountain. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying auras kept coming from the depths of the canyon. The rocks shook and sand flew everywhere. Within a valley, Yi Qinghan struggled several times but was unable to stand up. He spat out blood all over the ground, and his internal organs were almost crushed. He coughed up a few mouthfuls of thick blood mixed with fragments of his internal organs. His eyes were overflowing with blood. Crack, crack, crack. Yi Qinghan grabbed a huge rock with his bloody hand and stood up. His legs were shaking and he leaned against the rock. He looked into the distance and estimated that he was about 2,000 meters away. His Taoist robe wasn't damaged at all. It had withstood 90% of Xia Jiulong's attack, but his body couldn't withstand the remaining 10%. His absolute saint golden body was badly damaged and bathed in a river of blood. Holy light suffused the air. Humph! Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and discovered that his body had been crippled by at least 50%. His divine power had been depleted and he could barely hold on to 30% of his strength. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out more than 10 divine elixirs. He swallowed them and they melted in his mouth. His injuries were slowly recovering. Boom! After a while, Yi Qinghan stepped out 1,000 meters and entered the battle zone. At this time, Xia Jiulong saw Yi Qinghan rushing over and quickly swallowed a golden divine elixir. He pretended to be strong and stood up. His eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. "You're not dead yet," Xia Jiulong shouted angrily. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pulled Zhong Kuang, who was stabbed into the mountain, into his hand. The saber light pierced through the mountain rocks, causing pebbles to fly everywhere. Yi Qinghan leaned on the saber hilt and said in a sloppy manner, "Die. I'm so lucky. Crown Prince, you're disappointed. However, I'm also disappointed in you. I didn't expect the top expert of the younger generation to only be able to tie with me." Yi Qinghan clicked his tongue and shook his head as if he had expected better from him. Xia Jiulong's eyes burned with anger as he looked at Yi Qinghan's equipment from head to toe. Everything was of the highest quality. Just his equipment alone was better than his own. Coupled with his strength and physique, Yi Qinghan was already in an invincible position before the battle even began. "You're only relying on your equipment. Otherwise, I would have crushed your bones." Xia Jiulong sneered. Yi Qinghan smirked at Xia Jiulong's holy dragon robe and 9-dragon fan. He mocked, "Your equipment isn't bad either. Take off the holy dragon robe and suppress the 9-dragon fan. Let's fight one-on-one." Let's see if I can break your bones one by one. Ha ha ha, Xia Zhilong laughed and looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. He asked coldly, do you still have the strength to fight? I'm already surprised that you can stand up after taking a blow from my forbidden technique. You're just an arrow at the end of its flight, aren't you? Yi Qinghan saw that Xia Zhilong was unwilling to fight for a long time. He was sure that Xia Zhilong's forbidden technique wasn't easy to use. He probably didn't have the strength to fight anymore. However, with the Holy Dragon Robe and 9 Dragon Fan protecting him, he couldn't kill Xia Zhilong with his current strength. Ha, Yi Qinghan sneered. Not only can I stand up, but I can also run and jump. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you to the end. If you don't want to fight, I'm leaving. I'm very busy. The two of them were already at the end of their rope. Their minds and bodies were exhausted, but they didn't dare appear too weak. They were afraid that the other party would really kill them if he still had the strength to fight. The two of them acted arrogantly and bluffed to scare each other. However, this move was still effective. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to stay any longer. Xia Zhilong also had the intention to retreat. When he saw Yi Qinghan say that he was busy, he immediately said, if you want to talk about busy, I'm even busier. I'll spare you for now, but I advise you to return the ultimate divine medal. Otherwise, I'll definitely take your life next time. Then we'll talk about it next time. Goodbye, Crown Prince. We'll meet again someday. I'll take my leave first. If you can't leave, wait for your blood-robed guards to come back and support you. Don't try to show off. Yi Qinghan laughed arrogantly. He waved his hand and took Zhong Kuang away arrogantly. Xia Zhilong's face was ashen as he watched Yi Qinghan leave. He reluctantly took a step forward. His body swayed and his soul went into a daze. He almost fainted. In the end, he had no choice but to watch Yi Qinghan leave. The war zone returned to peace. The mountains on both sides of the Xixiang Grand Canyon had disappeared. They had been razed to the ground. Shang Jingwen, who was standing in the distance, saw the war zone and quickly rushed over. When he saw the terrifying scene in the war zone, a trace of horror appeared in his eyes. An unawakened eternal sacred artifact was already so domineering. The destruction it caused was even more terrifying than an upper-level eternal sacred artifact. Once it was awakened, there would be no living thing within 1,000 miles. Your Highness, are you all right? Shang Jingwen hurried over and asked in shock. Xia Zhilong looked at Shang Jingwen warily and said coldly, I'm fine. Brother Shang, help me kill Yi Qinghan. He's seriously injured and probably has less than 30% of his strength left. Shang Jingwen's face turned ugly. He said in a deep voice, Your Highness, you're making things difficult for me. If Yi Qinghan didn't have so many eternal sacred artifacts, I could kill him even if he was at his peak. However, he has 3 eternal sacred artifacts that have yet to be awakened. How can I be his match? Let alone 30% of his strength, even if he only has 10% of his strength left, he can just lie there and let me kill him. What can I do to him? Xia Zhilong was extremely unwilling. He gripped the 9 Dragons fan tightly as monstrous killing intent flashed in his eyes. At that moment, a mystic rushed over from afar. Only then did Xia Zhilong heave a sigh of relief. With someone on his side, he felt a sense of security. Therefore, after emptying his soul, he completely collapsed to the ground without any strength left. 1,000 miles away, Yi Qinghan clutched his chest and half-knelt on the ground. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. No matter how much he pretended, he couldn't change the nature of his body. If it were anyone else with such injuries, they would have died long ago. However, he had endured it and traveled 1,000 miles. Pft! Cough, cough, cough. Yi Qinghan kept coughing up blood. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the star-twisting vine and the multicolored snake to protect his surroundings. The star-twisting vine covered him in thousands of vines. Yi Qinghan swallowed a few sacred pills and lay on the vines, allowing the star-twisting vine to carry him forward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of vines intertwined with each other as they climbed over mountains. They were extremely powerful and could even uproot ancient trees. They traveled 30,000 miles in a day, day and night. They didn't know fatigue. After traveling for more than a month, the star-twisting vine brought Yi Qinghan to the border between the battle race and the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao. This place was more dangerous and complicated. Many evil overlords wandered around here. The star-twisting vine stopped. Yi Qinghan was wrapped in a cocoon inside the star-twisting vine. Light radiated in all directions as if he was about to break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. Chapter 2035. At the far end of the Xixiang sacred land, inside the mysterious mountain, there were too many experts around. It was either a public road or a dangerous place. Even the star-twisting vine could not move forward. In order to avoid being disturbed, the star-twisting vine chose to hide near a small mountain. It used vines as a disguise and attached itself to the thorns to hide Yi Qinghan inside. Yi Qinghan's body was surrounded by a thick layer of cocoon. His injuries were recovering extremely fast inside the cocoon. His internal organs were also recovering rapidly. However, the injuries this time were too severe. He had not fully recovered even after a whole month. Huff, huff, huff. Dong, dong, dong. Yi Qinghan's breathing was steady and his heartbeat was strong. It indicated that his injuries were mostly healed. Although he looked like he had not woken up yet, his divine sense was already operating. His soul was clear, and the power in his body was like a torrential river. This battle had allowed him to rise again, and his battle power had increased by another level. Crack, 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 the cocoon broke. Cracks appeared on his chest first, and then spread all over his body. It was not fast, and when the cocoon on his body was completely broken, 3 days had already passed. On the morning of the 4th day, the sun was shining brightly. The birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant. Beasts walked past the foot of the mountain, and they did not notice that there was a living person inside the vine. Bang! With a crisp sound, the cocoon on Yi Qinghan's body exploded. His sparkling and translucent body emitted a holy light. The perfect saint body crazily absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The stars in the sky that had yet to disperse suddenly burst out with a monstrous starlight, bathing the entire star-twisting vine in holy light. Yi Qinghan's body formed a flow of yin and yang. It was like a huge black hole, absorbing the starlight and spiritual chi. After entering his body, it automatically turned into divine power. It was majestic and vast, and it quickly surged. A boundless ocean quickly appeared in his dantian, and it was all divine power. The mountain in the morning should have been peaceful and tranquil. However, at this moment, it was majestic. A pressure slowly spread out, and all the beasts did not dare to move. Hua! The star-twisting vine spread out its vines, allowing Yi Qinghan to directly absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the starlight of the sun and moon. The perfect saint body once again erupted, and one could even see the flowing light clearly. Ka ka ka. Yi Qinghan subconsciously clenched his fists. Cracking sounds came from his iron fists. His eyebrows twitched slightly as he stretched his arms and his entire body emitted crisp sounds. Yi Qinghan let out a low groan as his perfect body was revealed. His physical body was wild and domineering, but there was also a warm energy attached to his body that prevented him from using his full strength. So fucking comfortable. Fighting with him is even better than breaking through a major realm. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and lay on the vine. His eyes were wide open as he lazily muttered to himself. Screech! A remnant shadow rushed out from Yi Qinghan's body. The god-devouring eagle transformed into a bolt of lightning and soared into the clouds. Its wings covered the sky. With a light flap, it actually stirred up time control. With a long howl, it caused the mountains to collapse. A lower-level flying beast. There weren't many in the world. It was especially so for a beast with a very low bloodline like it. It could only reach this stage because of its master's blood and chi nourishment. The god-devouring eagle had evolved. Back then, even a great emperor-level beast could not reach it. Now, it had reached a realm that many humans could not reach. Because of Yi Qinghan, not only did the god-devouring eagle evolve, but the most powerful multicolored snake and star-twining vine had also evolved and reached the lower level. In terms of combat strength, they were not considered weak among the lower-level humans. As for the other spiritual pets, they had more or less benefited. Only the divine bird remained unmoved. It was as if it had nothing to do with Yi Qinghan. The divine bird looked at the few spiritual pets that rushed out and was furious. It asked unwillingly, "I have followed boss for so long. Why haven't I benefited? Why have you all broken through?" Hua! The god-devouring eagle rushed back to the ground. In a flash, it transformed into a human. It was very rough and looked very domineering. Its eyes were full of spirit and a frightening light flashed. However, when it stood in front of Yi Qinghan, it was very respectful. That kind of reverence would not change because of its cultivation. The god-devouring eagle looked at the divine bird and said in a muffled voice, "This is a matter of talent and character bullshit. I am your boss. How dare you blaspheme boss?" The divine bird roared. The god-devouring eagle shrugged and said proudly, "I am now a complete human. It is more appropriate for you to command the other spiritual pets. I am a lower-level cultivator. You can stand aside." The divine bird was so angry that its divine feathers exploded. It glared at the star-twining vine and multicolored snake and threatened, "Do you dare to betray me? Be careful that this divine bird will not let you off." The multicolored snake looked down on the divine bird. It raised its huge snake head and looked into the distance with disdain. Only the star-twining vine that accompanied the divine bird was still shamelessly entangling the divine bird. Its head was like a tentacle that helped the divine bird smooth its feathers as if it was trying to curry favor. The divine bird looked at the god-devouring eagle and multicolored snake proudly and said with disdain, "Just you wait. When this divine bird nurtures the star-twining vine to the middle level, I will definitely teach you a lesson." Swoosh! Swoosh! The star-twining vine waved its vines as if it was demonstrating its power. At this moment, a few groups of people rushed over from afar. The strongest was in the middle level. Some were even sector lords. However, most of them were in the lower level. Ha ha ha, there is a lower-level flying beast. It is an eagle-type flying beast that is good at attacking. It is definitely a divine item. If we capture it and sell it to those rich people, it is equivalent to a year's worth of income. A few lower-level cultivators formed a team and rushed over from afar. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and his few divine pets. "If you have the strength to snatch the treasure, then go ahead. This is a no-man's land. Everyone, give me, Tiger Dragon Howl, some face. Let me have this eagle-type flying beast. The next time we meet, I will retreat." A cold and elegant scholar was very elegant. At this moment, he was wielding a divine sword and came over, causing the expressions of those lower-level experts to change. Tiger Dragon Howl was an expert among the lower-level experts. His strength was incredible. If he didn't kill someone, he would be crippled. In this area, there was almost no one in the lower level who was a match for him. After cultivating the heaven-returning sword, even the middle-level experts weren't willing to fight him to the death. Once he appeared, those lower-level and perfect sector lord adventurers' expressions changed as they all retreated. At this moment, there was a loud explosion that caused all the experts within a few miles to change their expressions. A huge tiger stomped on the mountain rocks and walked over. There was actually a tall and sturdy man sitting on top of it. He was holding a steel saber and was looking around angrily. "All of you, scram. This eagle belongs to this daddy. You dare to oppose me, Kue Dahu? Are you tired of living?" At this moment, even Tiger Dragon Howl's expression changed. This Kue Dahu was definitely one of the top 30 experts in this no-man's land. There were more than a dozen upper-level experts. Few could compare to him. The moment he appeared, the situation was set. Everyone retreated, including Tiger Dragon Howl. Kue Dahu looked down at Yi Qinghan's group and reached out to grab the god-devouring eagle. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stretched again and sat up from the ground. His handsome face revealed a trace of suspicion. He looked at Kue Dahu, who reached out to grab him. He waved his hand and slapped Kue Dahu's palm. Ka! Ah! Kue Dahu's hand was actually broken. His body seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He and the huge tiger flew out together and smashed into the valley. A mournful scream reverberated in the air. He didn't even know what happened when he fainted. Yi Qinghan was also baffled. He didn't know what Kue Dahu was trying to do. He only reached out to stop him. He didn't expect Kue Dahu to break his hand. Chapter 2036. Roar! Kue Dahu curled up and hugged his right hand as he screamed. His tears were about to fall. Yi Qinghan had an innocent look on his face as he reached out to look at his hand. He was surprised that he had casually waved his hand. Logically speaking, he should not have been able to beat a middle-level expert into such a state. My strength just now seemed to be much stronger than before. Wasn't the profoundness contained within the Taiji immortal canon? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself, puzzled. Congratulations on Master's cultivation success. You have become a true legendary expert, said the God-Devourer Eagle with a bow. Yi Qinghan scratched his head and muttered, is that so? I was wondering why it was so powerful just now. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up and summoned his divine pets. Only the God-Devourer Eagle took human form and followed him as they walked towards Kue Dahu. Yi Qinghan said apologetically, I'm really sorry. I was just casually attacking. How could I have known that your strength was so weak? Kue Dahu, who had been holding back his tears, immediately burst into tears when he heard Yi Qinghan's words. Yi Qinghan's words hurt him even more than if he had been beaten up. It was too stimulating. He had cultivated his entire life and had finally reached this stage. He was at least a middle-level expert. He had never expected that he would become weak in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan saw Kue Dahu crying so sadly and felt a little apologetic. He hurriedly comforted him, don't cry, don't cry. You are at least a middle-level expert and a man. Be strong. You have to change your mindset. Isn't it an honor to be defeated by me? Kue Dahu cried even more sadly. Yi Qinghan's words had seriously hurt his Dao heart. Yi Qinghan shook his head and casually threw out a holy elixir. He said impatiently, a man is so wishy-washy like a woman. Are you trying to scare me with your cries? The number of people I've killed is more than the number of tears you've shed. Stop pretending to be pitiful in front of me. I'll give you this saint pill. If you don't want to live after your wounds are healed, you can find a mountain and hang yourself. With that, Yi Qinghan turned to leave. Along the way, Yi Qinghan kept reflecting on that palm strike. That casual strike was even more powerful than when he was at his peak. After simulating it a few times, he finally grasped the mysteries of that palm strike. Yi Qinghan trekked through mountains and rivers, followed closely by the God-Eater Eagle. They entered the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao a few days later. Golden Origin City was a city northeast of the Eternal Sword Tao sacred land. Yi Qinghan quickly entered the city and teleported to Lookout City a few days later. He was stopped by a few Sword Tao sect disciples as soon as he stepped out of the formation. Uncle Master Yi, we're disciples of the Sword Tao sect. The Chess Saint has ordered us to invite you to the Sword Tao sect. We've also prepared a Cloudpiercer beast for you. These young disciples were stationed in Lookout City all year round. They knew the situation of the outside world very well. They seemed to have known that Yi Qinghan would appear here today, so they came here in advance to prepare. When they saw Yi Qinghan, they immediately stepped forward and bowed. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "Why is the Chess Saint looking for me?" "Uncle Master Yi, you're making things difficult for us." This sentence was sent by our sect's holy son. "We're not qualified to know too much," the disciples said in unison. Yi Qinghan nodded and gave them some pills. He then followed the disciples into the city. There was already a Cloudpiercer beast ready to go in the city lord's manor. Yi Qinghan rode the Cloudpiercer beast. This kind of fierce beast was one of the fastest flying beasts. Its speed was comparable to the upper realm. Moreover, it could gallop continuously for a month. It was the best tool for traveling. After traveling for more than 10 days, the vast holy city appeared in front of Yi Qinghan's eyes. Half a day later, he arrived outside the city. Yi Qinghan did not understand why the Chess Saint had summoned him at this time. However, he still took the Cloudpiercer beast and quickly rushed into the city, heading straight for the Sword Tao sect. As soon as he arrived at the gate of the Sword Tao sect, Jian Shisan came up to him with an anxious face. "Brother Yi, you're finally here. I was really afraid that the disciples of the major cities wouldn't be able to find you," Jian Shisan said happily. Yi Qinghan asked in puzzlement, "Brother Shisan, what's the matter? Why did you call me here using the Chess Saint's name?" "It's not really using the Chess Saint's name. He asked me to inform you that there are many blood-robed guards around the heaven-suppressing palace. There is even a saint nearby. The Chess Saint is worried that it will trigger a war between the sacred lands. So, he specifically asked you to control yourself when you return to the heaven-suppressing palace. Do not give the Holy Empire a chance to attack. Otherwise, the Sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Ground will be in a very awkward position and you will be in even more danger," Jian Shisan quickly said. "The Holy Empire dares to cross several sacred lands and attack us in the Sword Tao Sacred Ground?" Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. "Sigh, times have changed. The Holy Empire's crown prince is very aggressive now. His strength is far beyond our young generation. He has already broken many rules. If the older generation does not speak, no one in the younger generation can suppress them. They are used to being domineering and the other sacred lands can't do anything about it. Now, they are sending out their palace lord. As long as they do not attack our sacred land's main cities first, we can only protest. Besides, my Saint Lord's teacher is not willing to fall out with the Holy Empire over such a small matter," Jian Shisan said softly. Yi Qinghan nodded and continued asking, "Then, does the Chess Saint have anything else for me? If not, I will return to the heaven-suppressing palace immediately." "No, the Chess Saint's martial uncle just asked me to tell you that you must control yourself and not give the saint a chance to attack. Otherwise, even if he wants to protect you, he won't have the chance. Also, the person behind you will be exposed. By then, it will be a world war," Jian Shisan reminded with a deep voice. Yi Qinghan nodded silently and clasped his fists. "Brother Shisan, thank you for the reminder. I will return first. Let's drink and chat after I am done." Jian Shisan did not ask him to stay. He nodded and gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan no longer hesitated and rushed out of the city. He rode on the cloud-piercing beast and continued his journey. After another half a month, he entered the Western District's Lookout City. Using the teleportation portal, he appeared outside of the heaven-suppressing palace city on the 5th day. Just as he arrived at the heaven-suppressing palace city, he could feel a faint trace of hostile aura. There were many powerful strangers roaming around. They were true adventurers, but once they were on a mission, they would become the blood-robed guards. Their identities were unclear, so no matter how overboard they were, the Sword Dao sacred ground could not do anything about it. Yi Qinghan looked around and walked into the city silently. He noticed that there were many blood-robed guards in the city. Most of them were of the Realm Lord level. 30% of them were in the lower level, 10% were in the middle level, and roughly 50 were in the upper level. They spread out around the Kuang Manor and did not attack the Kuang Manor. Outside the city, in an elegant valley, the Cloud Dragon Saint sat cross-legged on the ground. Her hair fluttered in the wind as she studied the Tao of heaven and earth. It was at this moment, an upper-level scout walked over respectfully, knelt on the ground and said, "Manor Lord, Yi Qinghan has returned. Follow the original plan. Force Yi Qinghan to attack, then beat him until the person behind Yi Qinghan comes out. I would like to see who is behind him." The Cloud Dragon Saint said coldly. "Yes, Saint." The scout bowed and left. As soon as the scout entered the city, the news was quickly passed to the experts and the atmosphere in the city changed. Chapter 2037. Yi Qinghan did not know how many Bloodstrike guards were carrying out their missions in the city. Seeing that they were all up to no good, he did not start a massacre. Instead, he quickly made his way to Kuang Manor, avoiding the Bloodstrike guards. When Yi Qinghan entered Kuang Manor, he found that the group of people from Kuang's sect were very angry. They were trying their best to restrain themselves. When they saw Yi Qinghan return, they all surrounded him. "Boss! You're finally back. We couldn't hold it in any longer," Jiang Jingtian said angrily. "We have to hold it in even if we can't. There are not only Bloodstrike guards outside the city, but also a saint. I think Xia Jiolong will be here soon. We won't gain anything by attacking," Yi Qinghan explained in a deep voice. Sigh. These bastards are getting more and more out of hand. They often find excuses to kill people in the city. Now, the people in the city are panicking. Many people have escaped from Kuang Manor. I heard that Fire Beacon City was also provoked. The Alchemist Association had no choice but to move. Now, 50% of the merchants in Fire Beacon City have left. If this continues, I'm afraid Fire Beacon City and us will be destroyed, Gu Qingyu said unwillingly as he held his sword. Yi Qinghan looked at his brothers and sisters who were filled with righteous indignation. He moved his fingertips slightly and said with a smile, "Don't worry. I told you to hold it in, but I didn't say that I would. Even if I kill all the Bloodstrike guards today, the saints outside the city can't do anything to me." Everyone was shocked. They were afraid that Yi Qinghan would fly into a rage out of humiliation and talk back to the Eternal Saint. They all tried to persuade him, "Hold it in for a while. Boss, don't be rash. We don't have an Eternal Saint to fight against." Yi Qinghan patted his chest and said confidently, "Don't worry, anyone can try to kill me, but a Sage Realm expert won't." Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan's mysterious appearance and still felt uneasy. However, Yi Qinghan did not explain any further. Instead, he directly entered his own courtyard. When he opened the door, he found that Jian Qinxue and Lin Wuqian were both in closed-door cultivation. For the past 1,000 years, the two of them had never left this courtyard. They had been cultivating day and night, and had been nurtured by Green Lotus Sword Immortal alone. Their cultivation had progressed by leaps and bounds. 90% of the crazy sect's resources had been used up by the two of them. However, they did not disappoint the people of the crazy sect. Lin Wuqian had used 1,000 years to reach the complete middle level, while Jian Qinxue had almost reached the upper level. At this moment, the two of them were trying to break through to the upper level. They were surrounded by barriers with flowing light and surging lightning. Their perception of the outside world had long been blocked. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was sitting in the pavilion, fiddling with the bamboo flute in his hands. Upon seeing Yi Qinghan return, he did not even raise his head as he said indifferently, "You're back. Did you gain anything? Have you found the location of the other half of the Green Lotus core?" Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied in a low voice, "There are some gains, but I haven't found the other half of the Lotus core." Back then, the Green Lotus core had been divided into two parts. One part was scattered outside and was accidentally retrieved. However, the other part was still in the hands of the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire. As for where it was now, there was no way to find it. Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked as usual, as if he was not angry at all. He just waved his hand and said, "Since there are no gains, hurry up and leave. Don't stay in the courtyard and disturb my rest." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. This was clearly his courtyard, but Green Lotus Sword Immortal had turned the tables on him. Yi Qinghan helplessly said, "Fairy Green Lotus, I came back this time to clean up the trash outside. Once I'm done, I'll help you find the Green Lotus core." Green Lotus Sword Immortal shook his head and said in a crisp voice, "Let them be. Don't do anything. There is an eternal saint outside who has been wandering around for hundreds of years. He tried to enter Kuang Manor several times but was repelled by me with a special method. They don't dare to act recklessly without knowing my identity. If you do anything to them, they will definitely beat you with a thunderous force and abuse you to force me to take action. My identity cannot be exposed, so you should endure it." Yi Qinghan grinned evilly, "Green Lotus, don't worry. As long as you don't come out, I will be safe. The Eternal Saint won't dare to attack me. As for those trash, so what if they are at the upper level? I can stand outside and let them beat me up. They can't kill me." With that, Yi Qinghan's divine power surged. Divine light shone in all directions and the yin-yang Taoist robe appeared in his hand. The yin and yang 8 trigrams appeared in his hands. However, Green Lotus Sword Immortal had set up an enchantment so that outsiders could not see anything. Green Lotus Sword Immortal raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "The yin and yang 8 trigrams robe? The Grand Master Grand Sage helped you refine this Taoist robe? What did you do for him to help you so much?" Yi Qinghan laughed. "You don't have to worry. I'm now a true disciple of the Heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage. This isn't the only thing I have. However, this robe alone is enough to prove that I represent the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Whoever dares to attack me is equivalent to attacking the Grandmaster Grand Sage. Would the saints of the Holy Empire dare to attack the Grandmaster Grand Sage?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked at Yi Qinghan silently. He felt that this matter was not so simple. As a Grandmaster Grand Sage, why would he treat Yi Qinghan so well if he did not use him? "What else did he give you?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal asked after a moment of silence. Yi Qinghan happily took out the berserker and transformed it into the eternal glove. He stood in the courtyard, his aura soaring. "Indeed, with this set of equipment, not many saints can kill you." Green Lotus Sword Immortal said in a low voice, "But I am very curious. Why is the Grandmaster Grand Sage so good to you? Are you his illegitimate son?" Yi Qinghan was speechless. He scolded, "My background is simple. Don't you know? Don't talk nonsense. You said it yourself. Your background is simple. Can you tell me why the Grandmaster Grand Sage made 3 sets of eternal divine weapons for you? Especially that saber. There are 9 seals on it. Once all of them are opened, it will become a true eternal divine weapon and can awaken on its own. Even an eternal saint may not be able to defeat this saber. The 9th seal contains the Grandmaster Grand Sage's most powerful attack. In my current state, I can tell you with certainty that I cannot withstand it." Green Lotus Sword Immortal slowly stood up. His divine chi swirled around him and the mysteries of the Green Lotus circled around him. His temperament was transcendent. His eyes were like stars as he looked down at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He did not know what Green Lotus Sword Immortal was trying to say, but he did not believe that someone as transcendent as the Grandmaster Grand Sage would use him. He explained, Green Lotus, these materials were all provided by me. There is still more than half left. He saw my talent and accepted me as his disciple. He used the materials I gave him to make something good for me as a gift. There is nothing strange about that, right? Moreover, I am very popular. Just like you, the most powerful person in the world, aren't you also very nice to me? I am also using you. I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Just be careful. Don't be betrayed and help others count their money. Green Lotus Sword Immortal impatiently waved her hand and said, since you have this set of equipment, then help me clear out all the small fries in the outside world. They're constantly trying to investigate this courtyard in the outside world, which makes me very annoyed. Yi Qinghan smiled sinisterly. He took off his Taoist robe and put away his berserk sword. He walked out of the crazed mansion with only a pair of boxing gloves. Chapter 2038. Yi Qinghan, dressed in black, had a devilish smile on his handsome face as he left the insane manor. He then sealed the gate and walked alone into the streets. The streets were bustling with activity. The prosperity of the past was gone, leaving behind only desolation. Some adventurers kept a low profile and came from outside the city to resupply. They had no choice but to enter the city. After entering the city, they could only endure the provocations of the blood-robed guards. They quickly restocked on pills and items and left quickly. These blood-robed guards seemed to be looking for trouble. They would beat up and kill anyone they did not like. The Heaven Chant Mansion was affected. In the past, there was always a lot of traffic in front of the mansion. Now, it was rare to see a customer every 3 days. The mansion master was so angry that he had to seek help from the headquarters. Zhang Yingshi had been in the heaven-suppressing city branch for 3 days. Looking at the situation in the city, she was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, she was waiting for an opportunity. On this day, Zhang Yingshi was looking at the streets from the pavilion. Suddenly, a figure caught her attention. Zhang Yingshi frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. She muttered to herself, just when others were worried about finding an excuse, you actually came out. Aren't you afraid of the sky falling and the earth shattering? Yi Qinghan casually walked on the streets, looking left and right. Occasionally, there would be adventurers selling materials, but the grade was too low. Otherwise, the blood-robed guards would have already forcefully bought or robbed them. The blood-robed guards wanted to cut off the insane sect's escape route. Without resources, even the largest sect would be emptied out. At this moment, a few mid-level blood-robed guards walked over and took the initiative to crash into Yi Qinghan. Bang! One of the mid-level blood-robed guards wanted to crash into Yi Qinghan, but when he did, he felt as if he had crashed into an eternal sacred weapon. A piercing pain came from his bones and his soul was almost annihilated. Ah! The mid-level blood-robed guard screamed miserably with an exaggerated expression. The other mid-level blood-robed guards looked at the man's exaggerated expression and laughed. They thought that his acting skills were good, but they did not know that he could not even speak in his current state. Why did you hit him? Do you want to die? The rest of the middle-level experts surrounded Yi Qinghan, and questioned him in a cold voice. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, I didn't hit anyone. Did you guys see wrongly? You didn't hit anyone. How did my brother become like this? Fuck, you don't know who I am, do you? How dare you quibble? A burly man waved his hand and tried to grab Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan shrugged and gave him a slap. Slap. A crisp sound rang out in all directions. Yi Qinghan's giant hand was surrounded by lightning and contained terrifying mysteries. It ruthlessly slapped that person's face, directly punching through the stone floor and smashing him into the deep pit. Humph! After a weak groan, the mid-level blood-robed guard convulsed in the deep pit. He was badly mutilated and did not even have the strength to speak. His vitality quickly dissipated. "Look, I'm the one who hit someone. I really didn't hit anyone just now. You guys really misunderstood me," Yi Qinghan demonstrated innocently. The 7 or 8 people who surrounded him, except for the one who was smashed into the deep pit by Yi Qinghan, were all dumbfounded. They looked at the mid-level blood-robed guard in the deep pit in a daze. When they looked at Yi Qinghan again, they could not help but retreat. At this time, Zhang Yingshi, who was on the roof of the heavenly chant mansion, could not help but stand up with his mouth agape. He looked down at Yi Qinghan. He's become so strong. This speed, this mystery. He actually crippled a mid-level blood-robed guard with just one slap, Zhang Yingshi exclaimed. On the street, after Yi Qinghan killed a mid-level blood-robed guard, he did not choose to endure. Instead, he looked at the others and said coldly, "I'm such a low-key person, but you guys dare to blackmail me. I already said that I didn't hit him, but you didn't believe me. Now that I've proven my innocence, you don't apologize. Are you bullying me because I'm weak?" The mid-level blood-robed guards were so frightened that they retreated again and again. Zhang Yingshi covered his mouth and smiled faintly. He said to himself, "You're really used to bullying others. Now you want to bully these blood-robed guards. I'd like to see what kind of strength you have to fight against the Eternal Saint." Yi Qinghan was not going to let them go. He was already angry, and his killing intent soared. He waved his iron fists, and the yin and yang 8 trigrams affected the airflow, imprisoning the people around him in place. They did not even have a chance to escape. Boom! Bang bang bang! Yi Qinghan casually punched each of the mid-level blood-robed guards, sending them flying. They did not have any visible injuries, but their vitality was wiped out. Their corpses fell to the ground. They did not even have the chance to pull out their bodies before they were all dead. Yi Qinghan clapped his hands and said disdainfully, "Trash like these dare to bully people in the heaven-suppressing city? You guys are really looking down on the heaven-suppressing city." The street fell silent. Many of the blood-robed guards did not expect Yi Qinghan to kill so many mid-level blood-robed guards in one go. Yi Qinghan stared coldly and scanned the surroundings. He channeled his godly power and roared, "Who else? Stand out and let me see. You're courting death." Shio. A sword ray came from afar. The sword aura was so strong that even the earth annihilation was torn apart. Boom! Yi Qinghan drew the yin and yang 8 trigrams in front of him. He gathered the yin and yang energy in his fists and punched towards the opponent's divine sword. The two streams of fire clashed together. Boom! A shockwave blasted out in all directions, flattening the houses on both sides. Wang! Pang! The divine sword in the upper-level blood-robed guard's hand trembled violently and clashed with Yi Qinghan's fist. Instead of tearing through Yi Qinghan's defense, the divine sword was shattered. The upper-level blood-robed guard's fist smashed into the upper-level blood-robed guard's sword hand. Boom! Yi Qinghan's aura was like a rainbow. He twisted his waist and flipped his fist. His strength was multiplied by several folds. This was much more serious than the time when he casually punched Kue Dahu. Ka ka ka. Yi Qinghan was wearing an Eternal Saint-grade defensive glove. It could amplify his strength by 3 to 5 folds. How could the upper-level blood-robed guard's body withstand Yi Qinghan's punch? His defense was penetrated and his right arm was shattered. His body flew backward uncontrollably and screams filled the air. Die! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground, shattering the ground and shaking the entire heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Then, he flew up into the sky and struck his knees and elbows at the upper-level blood-robed guard's chest and head. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan's elbows and knees struck the upper-level blood-robed guard's chest and head. The upper-level blood-robed guard's eyes shrunk and to his horror, he found himself unconscious. Then, his chest caved in and his head fell into darkness. Ka ka ka. Yi Qinghan rammed the upper-level blood-robed guard into a deep pit. Dust flew everywhere and the upper-level blood-robed guard died a horrible death. Not even his weapon survived. His defensive divine robe was torn apart and the order in his body was shattered. His body was stained with blood and the luster of his body dimmed. Yi Qinghan stood up from the corpse. His body was dyed red by the enemy's blood. The corner of his mouth curled up into a terrifying smile. He waved his hand and released the star-twisting vine and the multicolored snake. He said calmly, "I'll reward you. These are the corpses of upper and middle-level cultivators. Don't waste them." Zhang Yingshi's divine light shone in all directions and shrouded the entire heaven chant hall, blocking the shockwaves from the battle. Looking down at Yi Qinghan killing an upper-level blood-robed guard, his eyes were filled with shock. Yi Qinghan's explosive power was too strong, especially when the upper-level blood-robed guard didn't know that Yi Qinghan had an eternal saint-grade defensive glove. His divine sword clashed with Yi Qinghan, how could he not die in vain? Chapter 2039. The upper-level cultivator died unjustly. One careless move and the entire game was lost. Only then did the blood-robed guards who were roaming around the area were shocked. Zhang Yingshi was also shocked. Killing an upper-level cultivator in 2 moves was not something she could do. Yi Qinghan stood up from the pit in his blood-red robe. His eyes were filled with disdain and a cold and domineering aura swept across the area. He was like a god of war who calmed the world, causing the surrounding aura to stagnate. Who else? A thunderous voice reverberated in the area, and even the wind stopped blowing. When the crowd saw Yi Qinghan's cold light sweep past them, they quickly dodged. Their eyes were filled with shock. Only a dozen or so upper-level cultivators clenched their fists and glared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the pit and stared at the blood-robed guards. He coldly said, "You dare to cause trouble in the heaven-suppressing city? Why don't you take a look at yourselves? The originally prosperous city has been turned into a mess because of you. Do you really think I can't get rid of trash like you? Hoo hoo hoo. Dong dong dong." Breathing and heartbeat intertwined. The slightly weaker blood-robed guard's chest heaved up and down as they could not withstand Yi Qinghan's aura. "I don't care if you are blood-robed guards or black-robed guards. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation for causing trouble in my territory, don't even think about leaving the heaven-suppressing city alive." Yi Qinghan was extremely domineering. With a wave of his hand, he violently attacked. The saber aura tore through the void and blasted out in all directions, causing the upper-level blood-robed guard's hair to stand on end. "It's the Eternal Saint weapon." More than a dozen upper-level cultivators blurted out at the same time. Their eyes were filled with fear as they took a few steps back. Zhang Yingshi's jade-like hands trembled. The way she looked at Yi Qinghan changed. This kind of wild and domineering nature was rarely seen in cultivators nowadays. Especially when facing the blood-robed guards of the Holy Empire, the true disciples could only turn a blind eye and choose to endure. What a barbaric man! Give him another 30 to 50,000 years and Xia Jiulong's elegance will be eclipsed. Boom! Yi Qinghan took a step towards the blood-robed guards and raised his saber to kill them. Each strike was merciless, and the street was dyed red with blood. The middle-level cultivators didn't even have a chance to retaliate. Yi Qinghan's control over his strength had already reached the level of great success, and there wasn't even the slightest aftershock. Go! Let's kill him together. Whoosh! Roar! A top-notch expert pounced towards Yi Qinghan, his sword piercing through the clouds like a rainbow. Tens of thousands of sword shadows surrounded Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan sliced open the void with his saber. With a flick of his wrist, the saber radiance swept out in all directions and actually shattered the 10,000 sword shadows. The true body of the sword expert appeared in his field of vision. Just as he was about to attack Yi Qinghan, he was struck by the divine sword. The divine sword was split apart and tore through his defensive chi of divinity and divine clothes. His corporeal body was sliced in half. Hiss! This completely shocked the other upper-level cultivators. The experts who were just about to kill Yi Qinghan stopped one after another, and the swords in their hands began to tremble. If you think you can contend with the eternal sacred artifact, just come and try. I'll show you the power of the eternal sacred artifact. Yi Qinghan roared angrily, shattering the momentum of hundreds of blood-robed guards. There was no way they could fight. Two eternal sacred artifacts had appeared at once. Although they didn't have the auxiliary attack power of the eternal sacred artifact, how could the upper-level cultivators resist the enhancement power? Even if Yi Qinghan wasn't as good as Xia Jiulong, they were on par. In a one-on-one fight, the upper-level cultivators were no match for Yi Qinghan. However, they were now timid and didn't even have the will to fight, so they couldn't form an alliance. Otherwise, if he didn't have the yin-yang Taoist robe, he wouldn't be able to contend with more than 10 upper-level cultivators. Boom! When Yi Qinghan took a step forward, the blood-robed guards took a step back. At this moment, Zhang Yingshi flew over from the sky and landed in front of Yi Qinghan. He whispered in his ear, "Be careful not to summon the eternal sacred artifact. If that happens, you won't even have a chance to fight back." "I know. The Cloud Dragon Sage is just outside the city. He must be watching me. I don't believe that a sage like him would come to a small place like mine to bully juniors like us." Yi Qinghan sneered. "Why fight against such a huge monster? Just bear with it. Let them leave and everything will be fine." Zhang Yingshi sighed and said. "Why should we? They are the ones who should bear with it." Yi Qinghan replied strongly. Zhang Yingshi's face turned ugly. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so stubborn. In the sky, the clouds gathered and the Tao formed into the image of a sage. He sat cross-legged under the stars and looked down at the heaven-suppressing city. It was as if he could crush the entire city with a single slap. Such an existence was not something humans could fight against. "Young man, being strong is a good thing, but being arrogant is a bad thing. You stole the immortal materials of my holy empire, and you still dare to be arrogant here. Today, I will personally take action. Return the immortal materials, kneel down and apologize, and I will spare your life." The image of the Cloud Dragon Sage was surrounded by holy dragons. His voice was like a bell that came from the wilderness, deafening. "Greetings, sage." The entire city knelt down and even Zhang Yingshi didn't dare to blaspheme. Yi Qinghan, however, remained unmoved. He shrugged and said, "Sage, to catch a thief, you have to catch the thief first. Your immortal materials are hidden in your treasury. I am just a middle-level immortal. When did I enter the treasury? You are a sage. Don't accuse me in front of everyone. Then where did you get the extreme godly metal?" The Cloud Dragon Sage looked down at Yi Qinghan and questioned him. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked, "Do you mean that all the immortal materials in the world belong to your Saint Empire? That's too overbearing. Let me ask you, where did the extreme godly metal come from?" The Cloud Dragon Sage asked again. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "I found it in a mine in the sealed heavens prison. However, all the treasures in the world belong to those who are fated. You have occupied the sealed heavens prison for so long and have yet to find it. This means that you are not fated. Furthermore, everyone knows that the sealed heavens prison was originally a sage's world. It does not belong to your Saint Empire. Therefore, my extreme godly metal does not belong to your Saint Empire, you are twisting words and forcing logic. How can I spare you today? Hua! The cloud dragon sage was burning with anger. The void distorted the sky and formed a huge hand that covered the sky. It descended from the sky and suppressed Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He activated the yin-yang Taoist robe and the yin-yang 8 trigrams formation surrounded his golden body. He raised his head and roared, I represent the Grandmaster Sage. Whoever dares to attack me will be blaspheming the Grandmaster Sage. Cloud Dragon Sage, do you dare to declare war on the Grandmaster Sage? The Cloud Dragon Sage's giant hand stopped in mid-air, his expression extremely ugly. This was the Real Foundation. The yin-yang 8 trigrams robe was a symbol of identity. It represented the Grandmaster Sage. Just like the Saint Dragon robe of the Saint Empire, it represented the Emperor of the Saint Empire. It also represented the Saint Lord of the Saint Empire. Who would dare blaspheme it? Zhang Yingshi was completely convinced. A young kid actually had 3 eternal sacred weapons. Even Xia Jiulong could not compare to him. The Cloud Dragon Sage stopped his attack. He could not bear the crime of blaspheming the Grandmaster Sage. If he dared to kill Yi Qinghan today, the Grandmaster of Heaven would dare to suppress him. Even the Saint Lord of the Saint Empire would not plead for him. Chapter 2040. The Cloud Dragon Saint stopped. He took a deep breath as he hid in the valley outside the city. His eyes flashed with coldness and fire, but he did not dare to act recklessly. Ho ho ho. The Cloud Dragon Saint heaved a few deep breaths and clenched his fists. He controlled the phantom in the sky to slowly retract his fists and stared at Yi Qinghan, who was like an ant in the city. There was nothing he could do. If Xia Jiulong was strong enough, he could kill Yi Qinghan, but not the Eternal Saint. Yi Qinghan, you are ruthless. The Cloud Dragon Saint whispered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan sneered and did not reply. He stabbed his saber into the ground and said coldly, Cloud Dragon Saint, it's not that I don't respect you, but your subordinates have messed up my heaven-suppressing palace. If I let you go just like this, my reputation is not important, but what about the Grandmaster Great Sages? Then what do you want? The Cloud Dragon Saint's breathing was heavy and he had no words to refute. I dare not argue with the Eternal Saint, but these so-called blood-robed guards will either die or compensate the heaven-suppressing palace for all its losses. 300 million strands of faith. Not a single cent less. Yi Qinghan said firmly. 300 million strands of faith was a huge sum even for a saint. The Cloud Dragon Saint almost fainted from anger. He was high and mighty, and this was the first time he was extorted by a junior. What he did today was destined to be mocked by the world. Yi Qinghan did not show any mercy after gaining the upper hand. He said calmly, if senior can't take out so much money, you can just ignore these hundreds of trash and nurture them in the future. Leave these people to me and let me teach these trash a lesson so that no one dares to bully my heaven-suppressing city again. The Cloud Dragon Saint's breath stopped. Could he leave these people behind for Yi Qinghan to kill? Who would dare to work for the Saint Empire in the future? He had no choice but to choose the second option, which was to pay the 300 million strands of faith. Here is 150 million strands of faith. The remaining 150 million strands of faith will be given to you through the Sword Tao, Great Eternal Sacred Ground. The Cloud Dragon Sage did not want to stay any longer. He waved his hand and left behind a storage ring. Then, he said coldly, the rest of you, follow me. Yi Qinghan took the money and proudly shouted to the sky, Senior, remember to take Fire Beacon City's blood-clad guards with you. Otherwise, if I'm in a bad mood one day and kill your people over a small misunderstanding, I'll be too sorry. Humph. The Cloud Dragon Sage grunted. There was no need to bicker with Yi Qinghan now. The longer he stayed, the easier it was for him to leave behind a bigger scandal. Whoosh! The images above dispersed and the blood-robed guards quickly left. The heaven-suppressing prefecture city erupted in cheers and the citizens roared as they celebrated on the streets. All these years, the heaven-suppressing prefecture city had been suppressed to the point of depression. Many people had chosen to leave, but those who chose to stay were those who had deep feelings for this place. Yi Qinghan looked at their excited faces, cupped his fists, and said in a deep voice, "Thank you all for staying by my side. I will pay you back double for all the losses you've suffered over the years. If any family has died, please report it. One life will be worth 1,000,000 strands of faith. Thank you, City Lord Yi." Haha, we didn't misjudge you. Following City Lord Yi, our future will be better. Everyone knelt down and expressed their gratitude as they discussed excitedly. Yi Qinghan said shamefully, "There's no need for this. This happened because of me. I am deeply sorry for the deaths of my friends. Today, please rebuild the city. If you need any money, please report it to the Quang Manor. Thank you for your trouble." Everyone dispersed, and the news quickly spread everywhere. After the adventurers who were still adventuring in the depths of the mountain range outside the city received the news, the collapsed houses were rebuilt a few days later, and the roads were paved again. The city was once again filled with vitality, and it was extraordinarily lively. Zhang Yingshi couldn't help but admire Yi Qinghan. It was as if there was nothing that could stop him. "Invite City Lord Yi over. Tell him that I invited him over for a drink. Also, inform everyone in the city that tomorrow night, the drinks here will be free. Let the Heaven Chant Inn become lively again." Zhang Yingshi sat in the hall and gestured to the twin sisters beside him. "Yes, sir." The two assistants bowed and left. They then personally went to the Quang Manor to invite Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was sitting in the Quang Manor's hall, checking the losses of the Quang sect and the heaven-suppressing prefecture city's families and the adventurers who relied on this place to survive. It was estimated to be at least 80 million, if not 100 million. But with the Cloud Dragon Saint's compensation, the Quang sect did not have to pay for it. Yi Qinghan sorted everything out and summoned Di Longtian and the other core members of the Quang Manor. He had them take out the money and compensate the people in the city. As soon as he was done, the two beauties of the Heaven Chant Inn respectfully walked into the Quang Manor and were led to the hall by the butler. "Honorable City Lord, our master wishes to invite you over for a drink." The two beauties bowed and said. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked at the two beauties. They were twins, and they looked exactly the same. Their figures were amazing, and their faces were also very beautiful. They would be top-notch no matter where they were placed. However, Yi Qinghan didn't fall in love with either of them. He nodded and said, "You two go back first. I'll be there shortly." "Yes, City Lord." The two beauties left respectfully without saying anything else. Yi Qinghan stood up and took out a storage ring. Inside the ring were many resources that the Cloud Dragon Saint gave as compensation. They were suitable for young experts. He categorized them and rearranged them before putting them into the storage ring. He then stood up and walked out of the hall to the back of the City Lord's manor. There was a beautiful and peaceful land behind the manor. Outsiders rarely entered this place, but the experts of the Quang sect were all in closed-door cultivation here. The Golden Bloodline Stan Wuxia, Xian Yanxue, Nye Tian, and the other experts had not come out for many years. They were all hiding here, cultivating day and night. Occasionally, they would enter the mountains to train, but they would return to this place very quickly. Lin Shui was here, as were Fazhen and the rest. It was very quiet here. Everyone had their own area and did not waste any time. Yi Qinghan entered the valley and handed over all the resources to everyone. He then passed on some of the less elite mental cultivation techniques from the celestial canon to everyone. However, he did not dare to expose them. After all, without the permission of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage, he would not dare to do anything. After settling everything, Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. When are we going back to the 9 continents? The divine bird asked impatiently. After we meet Zhang Yingshi, we will leave. Yi Qinghan also wanted to go back and take a look at the 9 continents. After all, he had left for so many years. He had to go back and take a look. The divine bird was overjoyed. It seemed like it really wanted to go back and see the little miser and its child. However, it did not know that the egg had hatched and gave birth to an even more unreliable son. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.